Ever since I reviewed Dark Star 1 5 years ago at the time of writing this and was left disappointed, I craved for arcade-style space shooter, something to wash the bad taste left in my mouth all those years ago. There were some potential candidates, but they are not exactly what I was looking for. Then I watched a review of Chorus. I never saw any ads about the game, never heard anyone mention it. It came completely out of nowhere for me, as if weren't advertised at all. It seems like a cool game, so I put it in my wishlist and forgot about it. In the summer of 2022, I had a chance to buy a sealed copy of the game and I didn't hesitate for a moment. This tweet was made more than a year ago. I was planning to review it sooner, by the end of that year, but life gets in the way. Let's not waste any more time and dive in. Spoilers for the whole game, you've been warned. The game was developed by Fishlabs, a game development studio based in Hamburg, Germany, who has a thing about making space combat games. It was established in 2004 and focused on making games for mobile devices. The studio is mostly well known for their long-running Galaxy of Fire series. The second game actually made it on PC, albeit with some canned content. Around 2010, the studio decided to enter the free-to-play mobile market, and in 2013 they released Galaxy on Fire Alliances, a massively multiplayer online game for iOS and Android devices. However, the model proved to be unsustainable and the studio had to lay off 25 people. On the brink of closure, Fishlabs was bought by Koch Media and it was incorporated as a division of Deep Silver and renamed as Deep Silver Fishlabs. They continued their journey on the mobile market with porting point-and-click adventure games such as Secret File series, Lost Horizon and others. They also ported Saints Row 3 and 4 to Nintendo Switch. Of course, they continued developing Galaxy of Fire games. Between all the ports and mobile games, they were busy creating Chorus. Fishlabs started working on the game at some point in 2017. On December 3rd, 2021, the game was released to positive reviews but with limited coverage. Those who cover it praise the combat and visuals, but they have mixed feelings about the story. Some liked it, others called it bland. But what do I think? Well, sit back, relax, grab a snack, and join me on this bumpy road full of space combat, a dangerous cult, sentient ship, a flawed main character, unforgivable sin, and the road to redemption. The game opens with a bang, and quite a big one.
I'm Nara. I wanted peace and safety for people. I wanted chorus, eternal harmony for everyone. Taught by the great prophet himself, I saw him as the father I never had. He was kind, a healer helping the sick, and a true guiding light for us all. I became his best pilot, his executioner. My talents and those of other elders were revealed. He taught us to tap into the ether and unleash gifts that lay suppressed inside us. The same powers the menacing faceless harness from inside their void. Nothing was able to stop the power of the circle. Nothing was able to stop me. But then he changed. Something happened, and suddenly no sacrifice was too much. Nimika Prime. A rebellious world refused the harmonious doctrine of chorus. An order was given, one which every elder must follow, even if they disagreed.
Destroy that planet, Nara.
I hesitated.
You can refuse, Elder.
But I didn't. I gathered all my anger. And billions died. I heard them scream. That day I left the circle, turned my ship towards the rift, ready to stop it or die. Keisha died first. Urum soon followed. Awan, my brother in chorus, was hit, so I left him behind. I left them all behind. And I fled.
You play as Nara, once the best pilot and weapon of the Circle, a cult bent on subjugating the whole galaxy or destroy whoever resists their doctrine. 7 years have passed since Nara destroyed the whole planet and left the cult holding inside her immense guild. We find her working as a scavenger for the Enclave, a militia set up in the Stega Central system to help protect it, and this is the moment you take control. First things first, this whole section, the scavenging for power cells, is a tutorial. It's implemented well. It's not intrusive, like pausing the game, and teaches you the basics you need to know for now. It also shows and tells how dire the situation of the galaxy is. This whole destroyed ship, people betraying people, and so on. Next, controls. I played the whole game twice and I used mouse and keyboard combo. It's working fine for the most part. I'll get to them in more detail in a bit. You accelerate with W, decelerate with S, A and D spin the ship. The latter is particularly useful for avoiding being shot. Aiming and turning the ship is done with the mouse. Clicking the middle mouse button readjusts the ship orientation. If you don't do it, at some point the ship itself does it, as long as you move in a straight line. This is actually an option you can find in the settings. You can remove it if you want to. Most of the time you are going to do it. There is also a handy line from both sides of the aiming reticle, which will help you with the orientation. What I noticed on my second playthrough, the line is barely visible, so you won't clutter the screen. When you press the middle mouse button, it lights up for a brief moment, helping you to orientate yourself. Moving forward, you're introduced to your first rite or ability. You'll get a few more during the whole game, but I'll discuss them as they come. The one you are being tutorialized is called Rite of the Senses. You use it to scan the environment for hidden stuff and side quests. It highlights interactable and important stuff in the environment. And this is what the game teaches you: scan everywhere. All rites require energy. The senses need little, so you don't need to manage your energy, which by the way replenishes by itself. You see me using it non-stop because it's a key part of exploration. It's also good for finding weak spots of enemies. What follows is the first taste of combat with stationary targets, 2 turrets. When a new enemy is introduced, the game always pauses for a couple of seconds, giving you a close-up on the model, plus their strengths and weaknesses. This is a nice way to do it, giving you a chance to quickly adapt. You can skip this introduction if you want, but I never find it obtuse, so I never did it. Currently, you have access just to a Gatling gun, but later you will have 2 more weapons, and you need to take advantage of them. You'll see what I mean. Moving forward, I collect more power cells and shoot another few turrets and discover a memory. Using a Rite of Senses, you can glimpse what happened in the past. You'll see them a lot more throughout the game, showing Nara and the player events in the past enriching the world. All this leads to finally experiencing ship-to-ship combat. At first, it's just okay, chasing your target, shooting them, and avoiding being shot by spinning the ship. It's serviceable, nothing exciting, but believe me, it gets a lot better, and you don't have to wait for too long. I think this is the right place to talk about the controls. I already mentioned it, but I played the game with mouse and keyboard. For the most part it's okay, however you need to play with the mouse sensitivity, bear with me. You have unlimited boost and you use it constantly to move faster and or avoid damage. When you boost, the mouse sensitivity changes, which makes sense from gameplay standpoint. It's tighter and I find it easier to hit enemies. While not using it, sensitivity is way higher, and when you are not moving, you turn a lot slower. I played a lot with the settings and I found something that suited me, but even after my second playthrough, I never felt in absolute control. However, those issues are mostly mitigated by the rites, weapons and enemy hitboxes. You can adjust them. Exiting the ship puts you in a small open world area. Your next objective is to reach the Enclave. Throughout the opening, you are talking to Saf, the leader of the militia, who's not a friend and maybe even a father figure to a certain extent. From the conversations between them, you have a better understanding of the desperate times they live in.
The crew, they never had a chance.
A raid?
Someone sold them out to the cult. They massacred everyone, even the kids.
A circle cleansing doctrine. Thorough. Who betrayed them?
Never found out.
I love how right from the start you are fed with bite-sized chunks of information about the world without overwhelming you with a lore dump and or pause the game. It just feels natural. Conversations between 2 people. On top of that, you are shown how to play the game. Everything in this early section is organic and well paced. Let's get back on track. After collecting the energy cells, the tutorial is still not over. You're told to use the sublight drives. As the prompt says, you'll travel much faster and cover great distances. This way you don't have to hold shift to boost, which is way slower, and all you need to do is control the ship with the mouse. There is a fast travel, but only to the jump gates. Saf comments how deadly and fearless Nara is, and they need to talk.
Nara, I was thinking, all these years I've never seen you afraid of anything. And the way you fight, precise, deadly. You could earn a fortune anywhere else.
I'm not leaving Stega.
Oh, good. But things here might change.
You're expecting trouble?
Just come over and we'll talk.
I'll see about that.
Getting closer to the Enclave prompts a side quest, an escort mission. Help protect a pilot while carrying her cargo. You can actually decline the offer for whatever reason, however there is no point, the side quest brings you credit and loot. More about the loot later in the video. I choose to accept it. I don't mind some extra cash early on in the game, and it turns out the destination is the Enclave. The cargo pilot says she gambled with some pirates and lost but didn't have money to pay them, so the delivery is necessary to pay her debts. Unfortunately for her, the pirates intercept us and start asking for their money. You are introduced to having two choices, pay her debt or ignore her plea. I choose the peaceful solution. You have other choices like this, however, even after my second playthrough, I'm not sure if they change anything in the grand scheme of things. On a smaller scale, yes, you'll see a bit later. After some googling, it appears the game has at least two endings, so the choices may have some bigger impact, but I can't be 100% sure. Escorting her to the Enclave, she returns the money I gave and then some for my troubles. I landed on the station and continued the conversation with Saf from a couple of minutes ago.
What's the real story? Why those energy cells, Sav?
We've had a lot more refugees lately. Things are shaking up back in cult space.
You're preparing for a cult attack?
Could be nothing. Keep this between us.
Always.
In this small scene, they justify Nara going for the cells. It was not necessary, but small touches like this shows the dev cared a lot. It slowly builds to what will follow later on. On top of that, you are introduced to the shop. You can buy new weapons, shield and hull upgrades and mods for the ship. You can also change your loadout, but you can do it at any time. It's not necessary to be in the shop. Don't get overly excited. The shop is functional, but it feels underdeveloped. I don't know if this was set by my expectations when I saw it, but at the end of the game, I was barely visiting it. The upgrades for the ship are unlocked after certain chapters of the game, so you can't make yourself overly defensive early on. Initially, you have only 2 slots for the mods. Later on, 1 more is unlocked. It might seem fine at first, but once you get more options, it's very limiting. This will be evident once we get to the rites. I did some shopping and now the world is open for exploration. You have 2 main quests and the order you do them doesn't matter. You can jump directly into one of them, they are not locked, with the exclusion of some side activities behind certain requirements, but it's preferable to do some side quests and I chose that. At the end of the day, I need credits to upgrade the ship. While I was looking around, I found a memory with some backstory of Saf and his wife Ree.
What's its name again? The Enclave?
Catchy, right? People need a safe place
To hide from the cult.
to live a free life.
That's what we all need.
And you'd be perfect as our chief of security.
Not so fast, but show me around.
Great. You're gonna love it.
It just shows what kind of people they are. We're going to interact a lot with them, so it's nice to know them and maybe even care about them. After that, I chose to accept a quest to do a special delivery, encrypted keys, for Kyrium and Enclave security. I reached the coordinates given to me and contacted Jora, but things got complicated. Someone stole 3 tons of plutonium and he asked me to help him retrieve them because he can't leave his post. This is where the right of the senses comes into play. Once activated, it shows the life force of a person you're looking for, this bluish trail. I started following it and quickly reached the thief. However, Jora has a strange request. Don't shoot the ship and try to negotiate. In gameplay terms, this means catch up to the ship and you automatically convince them to return the cargo. I failed twice, but 3rd time is the charm, right?
Pursuing ship. Please don't fire.
Surrender now.
I can't. Please, I'm not a criminal.
Then stop running.
No. I made a deal to save my family.
With who?
The cult. All right. I give up.
Mom, don't!
Mum?
Jorah. It's not gonna work. The cult will never spare us.
The Enclave is your only option.
Will you tell my boss?
They'll never protect you.
They promised we'd be safe
Did they?
if I do this.
No, only if you join them. They always follow their doctrines. Don't be naive.
It's my only choice.
Your choice is surrender or I destroy your ship. Right now. Stay put and do your job.
Thank you. I'll do my best.
And you, pilot. Any second thoughts?
No, it was a mistake. I'm sorry.
Good. Consider this your only warning.
I will. Jorah, I'll move our things to the Enclave before the cult returns.
Thank you, Nara. She's my only family.
What I love about the side quests is how they are connected to the situation in the galaxy. You see a desperate mother who is willing to steal plutonium to try and save her son by negotiating with the people threatening the galaxy. She obviously knows it's wrong, but desperation pushes people making the wrong choices. All of the side content is carefully curated to add context to current events. Most of them involve shooting something, but it's not just collect and bare asses. Even if gathering stuff has a point, a meaning. I really appreciate the work that went into this. After that I decided to tackle one of the two main quests, the sensitive cargo.
Sav, I'm at your coordinates. Near a pirate hideout.
Okay, but we're not here for them. There's some sensitive cargo we better find first.
Understood.
We're looking for weapons.
I love how foreboding this place is, from the bright lights of the outside to the dark and gloomy place with glowing red rocks. Here I encounter a pirate with a shield. It takes me slightly longer to destroy him because I have only the Gatling gun. Even Nara comments on that. Finding the cargo leads to getting the second weapon, a laser. The benefit is that it takes down shields very quickly. It does the most damage when it's fully charged, and you immediately get some target practice. The idea is to take down the shield with the laser and switch to the Gatling gun because it does more damage to the hull. That's not the only reason, but after getting the third weapon, I'll get into more details about the combat. Dealing with the pirates finishes the mission and I'm free again to choose my next objective. But before that, I stumble upon a random event. A couple of ships attacked by pirates. You can ignore the plea for help or dive head first into battle. There are 4 types of random events. Defense ships, collect salvage from destroyed ship, fuel and hack ship. The latter two are essentially the same thing. You press a button for a bar to fill. You can always ignore them, but there is no point, at least in the beginning. You get money most of the time as a reward, and in some rare occasions a mod, maybe even a particularly good weapon. They also don't show up that often and don't last long to get annoying. The shooting ones are slightly longer in the beginning because you are not that well armed, but you'll be done with the enemies in around a minute. The others are less than that. There is a 5th one, but I saw it only on my second playthrough and in the last world you will visit. At a random, ruptures in the reality will show up and you need to fly through them to close them. And you are on a timer, very simple one, and the reward is an energy upgrade. I have no idea why this appeared only on my second playthrough. I'm guessing it has something to do with the difficulty I chose, but it's just speculation. On my way to the second main quest, I decide to take another side objective. Nara detects an energy source resonating with her abilities near an abandoned station. Close to the station there is a shipwreck. Still sensing the crew's energy force, I decide to follow the trail of memories. People stumble upon a glowing thing, a right energy fragment, and a dead marked one. Someone like Nara, who with the right training can manage the energy. After getting into contact with it, they get corrupted by the energy and turn them on each other. At some point, a famous explorer named Elaf detects the energy source and decides to investigate. However, he got attacked by the previous explorers and gets killed. I find the fragment, but before taking it, the corrupt explorers attack. Destroying them opens the shielded energy fragment. By collecting them you get stronger, you have a bigger energy bar. There are not that many in the game, so all are worth seeking out. After that I went for the second main quest, Rites' missing ship.
Ah, Nara, you're here. We have a situation. Pirates seized a ship that's crucial to us.
And you don't have enough security forces to get it back?
Well, talent is hard to come by.
I'm not interested
About this ship? The pirates have my crew pinned down.
I see. Is that a spirit?
Last battleship? Yes.
I haven't seen one since I came here.
That's our ship!
First, I have to defend the crew stuck in a Spirit-class ship from pirates. Then I take it for a spin. This battleship is an absolute beast. It's slow-moving, making it an easy target if you don't act fast and accurately, but has immense firepower. It has slightly different control scheme. You just obliterate any pirates that stands in your way. There are a couple of these sections throughout the game and they nicely diversify the gameplay. They are relatively short, so they don't outstay their welcome and are not cramped in every section, so you won't get bored of them. Saving the crew grants me a gyro stabilizer. Gatling gun makes 9% more damage, which is fine for now. However, things are about to get worse. Much worse. Just listen to the combination of voice acting and music. Pay attention especially to the music, how it makes the situation feel even worse than it is and then uplifting once you join the fight.
Vanguard wings in position, Sage.
Good. Commander Storm, execute the revision doctrine. Deploy the jump beacon and call in the psychic totem carrier.
Executing, Sage.
Commander Shadow, the sweep doctrine. Protect the assault wings. Seek out and engage all enemies in this sector. Honor the Prophet. In chorus, Sage. Hit them hard and fast, my warriors. Nothing will disrupt the construction of the Najara Citadel. In chorus.
There's a large force heading for the Enclave. It's the circle.
Sav, come in.
Nasika, get your repair crews back.
The ship? They killed my wife?
Sav, I'm coming.
No, Nara, don't. We're already dead. We can't win this battle. Save yourself, please.
I cannot run anymore.
No. I'm fighting, Sav. Now pull your people back. Nara out.
They finally came. Not for me, but for my people. My home.
Enclave, what's your status? Sav?
It's bad. The cult's all over us. We weren't ready for this.
I'm almost there.
But some of us are still out there. The cult's targeting them.
Understood.
They don't stand a chance. Without me.
Nara, I had a life reading and then I lost it.
Copy. I'll get there. There's someone still alive.
You have 3 optional objectives. Protect 3 ships from the circle. Besides being the right thing to do, there is another benefit to your actions unannounced to you at this moment. If you decide to help, later in the game you receive a mod. After successfully defending all 3 ships, I turn to the Enclave station and things are getting from worse to shit hit the fan. My primary objective is to destroy the psychic totems before they corrupt machine and man, then defending the station from all enemy ships and another psychic totem attack. Nara's internal pain and struggle overwhelm her and she knows she is not ready and needs help, but Sav has a confession to make.
That's the last of those damn totems. We're coming back to life. All stations, pick your targets in a close defensive grid. Fire! Fire! Fire!
Hunting the last fighters. Enclave, watch your fire.
We defeated the Circle forces, but our work's just started. The dead will have to wait. The day is here. These outer reaches are no longer safe. They will keep coming, again and again, until we're finished, and everyone here is dead, or worse. Frontier people are tough, but we're not trained soldiers. We need you to lead the assault on the Circle, Nara. Nara?
I can't.
Why? The people need you, Nara. I need you.
The Circle needs you, Nara. I need you.
Nara?
I must restore my balance. And I need you, my old friend.
Sav, I'm heading out.
And I respect that. I really do. But I have something to tell you if you have a moment. Nara, listen. It was me. I led them here. I'm responsible for all the deaths. I couldn't just wait for them to destroy our life here. I tried to protect us. I reached out. I offered them a deal.
Sav. The cult doesn't make deals. They only follow their sacred doctrines to the very end.
And again, as previously mentioned, desperation leads to making the wrong choices. As you see with other characters, even major ones have flaws dictated by the loss of someone loved or just mistakes causing many deaths. This is part of why I like the story, not because it's highly original, but because of the struggles of the characters, their pain and their growth during the whole game, especially Nara. To help her home, she must face everything she's done, facing her demons, reclaim what she gave up and help the fight against the Circle. While Sav confesses what he did, the game unlocks the repair bot. It restores fully your hull, but it's on a timer. You can lower the time with the mod, but I never used it. You understand why later in the video. That's why you can't abuse it and the fights become more hectic, so you have to use it wisely. Even running away for a bit is an option, just until your shield recovers. Until now, the health regenerates, but after the bot this is gone. This also unlocks health drops from enemy ships. If you are low on health and kill an enemy, there is a chance a green orb will spawn and you can pick it up to restore fully your hull. If you take your sweet time, it will disappear. It doesn't spawn that often, so you can't count too much on that. So it's a balance between the two healing options and not getting hit. I decided to do more side quests and I got some credits, a mod that gives more hull, got into a race with a team and after a couple of tries I won, defend civilians from a cold ship attack, got a new laser and a shield upgrade from restoring a processing power plant, etc. Now it's time to see who this friend is.
I never thought we'd meet again, my friend. Forza. I had to protect you, keep you away from me. I couldn't let you follow me any longer. My loyal friend. And my best weapon. A machine that made me unstoppable.
I descend under the rocks until I reach Crystal Formation tucked away from everyone. It's like a temple, but the main entrance is closed, so I need to find another way using my Rite of Senses. And I need to check out the first of many memories here.
Other scavengers out here.
Destroyed 22.5 years ago by Circle vultures. Their logs mention the same shrine we seek.
I tricked you into coming here.
And the Eldership is still inside?
Yes, but sealed to block its entrance. Only a fully marked one can open it. I'll inform our acolyte.
This is recent. The Circle is onto Forza. I must find him first. I sense Forza's presence. Echoes of his spirit. Wandering this place.
The Circle will find us. We must strike first.
I'm done with all that.
I was not meant to hide.
I forced him to be alone. Time to face him. And his judgment.
Forza, it's me. It's Nara. I came back for you.
Yes. 7 years have elapsed. You set this unit on standby mode. You said...
It'll just be for a short while. I'll be back as soon as things calm down. I promise. I couldn't come back. I couldn't let people see a circle...
Negative. Do not lie. You never intended to return.
Yes.
Explain.
I couldn't look at you, knowing what I'd done. I killed a planet. That's... I knew you wouldn't understand.
You were in pain.
Yes, I was.
And now?
Now... there's nowhere left to hide. And I need to do terrible things again. And there's no one else I can do them with. I know I let you down. I'm sorry.
Welcome back, Nara.
Forsaken, Nara's sentient ship that was specifically assigned by the Circle for her. The main difference from other games in the genre. From this point onwards, the gameplay starts expanding and turning it into a very exhilarating space shooter. The first thing you are taught is the drift trance. This is the coolest thing. While moving forward, you press and hold the right mouse button to enter the drift trance. You continue moving forward, but you can aim in any direction without changing your flight direction. While getting out, the game gives you 3 times to practice it with these growth seals, escalating in difficulty, finishing with a battle against a new enemy that can be damaged only from behind. Thankfully, you don't have to do the growth seals, that often in the game. My muscle memory tries to circle strafe like I'm in a FPS for some reason. On my first playthrough, it took me a while to unteach myself doing stupid things like this. The stance allows for extremely sharp turns while dogfighting, making you even a bigger predator. You'll start seeing it very soon. Right after you get Forza back, you start to see he's maybe more than a machine. The way he talks to Nara, the memory she finds.
I must fight, hunt, kill. I was not created to hide alone. I was summoned to fight in synchronicity.
And this.
They're down. But many more are coming to cleanse the entire system.
I will hunt beside you, but only if you let me visit a special place.
What place?
You will see later. Promise me.
Of course, Forza. I promise.
I noticed something missing in you, Nara. You are fractured.
I am. I burned nearly all my rights out of me. Suppressed my gifts.
Then you also abandoned part of yourself.
Now, I need those rights back.
Good. They made you a perfect warrior.
Yes, I perfectly failed. If I fail again, Forza, you must stop me. Kill me. Please.
Understood.
It will become relevant soon. Since I did all the side quests before that, my next objective is to go to the Stega Temple. But first some shopping. I don't see any new weapons, but I get a mod that allows me to take down shields 9% faster. I set a course for the temple. I checked a few memories and reached its center.
The temple.
I can still feel the emptiness here. After I burned my rights away.
No one has ever faced a right vision, and its trial twice. It might kill you.
I must try. The spirit passage cutting into me. Where? The rites.
This is the only way.
We manifested what we are meant to be, unshackled from selfish restraint. Arasam 5, Sigmore, Montano Cluster. I must! Embrace what the Prophet sees in us. No. It's not who I am. I made my choice! I know who I was. I know who I am now!
A second rite, the Rite of the Hunt. It has two purposes. The first is to teleport to a specific point, avoiding obstacles. And again, getting out of the temple with your new rite puts into testing your skills with increasing difficulty, culminating in a chase from ancient, eternal, faceless guild manifestation. After that, you see the second use of the rite, teleporting behind enemies and showering them with gunfire. At my first playthrough, I rarely used it once I got the other rites. I just completely forgot about it. Besides the last one, I found Rite of the Hunt to be less used just because the others are way better. In fact, in the final mission, you have to teleport inside a shielded area to destroy energy cells. I haven't used it for the past 10 hours or so it took me a while to figure it out. The benefit of the Rite of the Hunt, compared to the others, is that it uses less energy. My second playthrough, I used it way more initially, but later it faded into obscurity. After killing all the cultists, Najara has a vision and have conversation with Saf on what to do next.
What's happening?
Nara, are you okay? For a moment I lost your vitals.
I'm back. But something really bad is coming. A rift.
The Nimika Rift. A flashback.
No, a different place. A new rift. We have to stop it.
So, we finally get to hunt them.
Yes. All of them. As promised. Enclave, come in. Sav, are you reading it?
Nara, after the attack I thought you'd left.
I'm done running. I'm ready to take the fight to the cult.
That's good. Our preparations are moving fast. See for yourself. Time to come home, Nara.
Copy.
Home, and you're their protector now.
The Circle will cleanse these people, murder them.
Of course, they're heretics. But you promised that we will move out and hunt the Circle.
We will, and we'll protect the people here.
This is not my home.
But it is mine. Understood?
And I obey.
I dock and get my third and final weapon, a rocket launcher. Now that I finally have all of them, I think it's time to discuss the combat, shop and mods. There are 3 weapons in total: Gatling gun, laser and a rocket launcher. This is disappointing initially, especially when you see there is a shop to buy weapons and other stuff. However, they are utilized to their fullest potential and manage to keep the gameplay interesting. Also, think of the Rites as the missing weapons. They don't necessarily act like one, but help significantly in combat. As we go further, you understand what I mean. Here how it works. You start with just the Gatling gun, then the other 2 are gradually introduced. They all have different stats, damage to hulls or shield, etc., and you have to switch between them to be more effective in combat. Lasers drop shields significantly faster than the Gatling gun. Not that you can't do it the other way around, but in early game it's way more difficult because the weapons do less damage and they have smaller clip size or overheat faster. Because of all these conditions, the gameplay requires switching weapons. You can't rely on just one. That's a good thing. The combat is designed around the weapons and the rides. Small by number, but polished to perfection. Almost. Speaking about the shop, the game has loot. You can buy it, find it out in the wild, or be giving it for finishing side quests. It can be weapons, mods, and other parts of the ship. It isn't something like in any action RPG in the vein of Dungeon Siege. They are in 3 categories: common, uncommon, rare. Weapons have decent variety. At the end of the game, I had 6 types of Gatling guns, 8 missile launchers and 8 lasers. This might seem fine, and to a certain extent it is, but there wasn't a tough choice. Nothing to debate within yourself, which is a shame. At the end of the day, it comes to choosing the one with the big DPS at the expense of clip size or vice versa. Besides weapons, there are mods to buy. There are 3 slots only, and you have to choose between weapons, dealing more damage, utility, dealing certain percentage more damage to the hull, shield, faster ship speed, etc. and defensive mods, stronger ship hull, better shield, etc. All these are on top of the upgrades to the hull and shield you can buy. There is one more mod available later in the game, but it's connected to the abilities you get. More about them later in the video. All this sounds fine, but that's all it is, simply fine. To be honest, the whole loot system and upgrades feel tacked on, something added at the last moment to give the player to do something more. What I mean is that there is not enough variety in weapons, mods and ship upgrades to be worthwhile investing time in choosing the right part for you. I never felt compelled to check the shop in a new region for new loot because everything felt samey. You have plenty of utilities to choose from in the mod section by the end of the game, but they are not interesting. I've seen people complaining about this, not so much about the lack of weapon diversity, but more about why would you choose one over the other, bigger clip size instead smaller one. I checked a few gameplay videos around the end of the game and the person playing it had a different set than mine. I was using a Gatling gun with slow burst firing rate and small clip size, and he was using the opposite. I think both choices are valid. However, more tough choices would be better. Maybe adding some trade-offs when using mods, or 1 or 2 additional weapons, a bit more exciting loot can probably make this part of the gameplay even more fun. At the end of the game, I had so much money and there was nothing to buy. However, I did all side quests, never skipped a random encounter and found a lot of hidden stashes. This probably has something to do with having too much money. What I ended up doing in my second playthrough is changing my loadout, specifically the Gatling gun and the rocket launcher, depending on the enemy. When a ship has many weak points, I swap to my rocket launcher that has bigger clip size and faster travel time, albeit doing less damage. You can do that in a mid-fight. There are no restrictions, like it can be done only in the shops. On the final boss, I didn't need my most powerful weapons because of their drawbacks, like slow speed, so I just used another 2. For the laser, I didn't feel the need to change it because it was too good. All this was a bit annoying, but it led me thinking, why can't I have a few loadout sets saved and swap them with the press of a button? All this proves that all options are viable, it's just cumbersome to change your weapons. One thing that took me a while to notice is the bonuses for equipping sets. These can be anything from mods and weapons. Depending on the set, you can equip from 2 to 4. The more they are, the better the bonus, firing 4 missiles at once for a massive amount of damage. Killing an enemy with a certain ability makes it last longer and you can daisy chain it, your abilities not requiring energy for 10 seconds, etc. This can be extremely powerful and aid in a dogfight. Sets are usually uncommon or rare items. I was never compelled to use them, even with the bonuses. I focused on separate parts and what they can offer me. I ended up expanding the energy bar and the hull of the ship. That's it. 9% more damage to my Gatling gun is not exactly thrilling. This could be one thing that might make you consider using stuff that you probably never think of, but as I said, I was never compelled to do it. One thing I would praise the game about is the incentive to use all weapons and rights. In-game it's called mastery. The more you use something, the greater the benefits are. In terms of the weapons, it means faster reload speed for the rocket launcher, less overheating for the Gatling gun, and faster charging for the laser. It's simple and cool system. Combine all this with the right incentives, which I'll talk about later, and the combat ones, like destroying certain amount of ships or drift killing, makes for a very fun gameplay that doesn't force any of this on you, but it happens naturally just by playing the game. The simplicity of this system is its charm. Before all the talk about weapons, mods, shops, etc., Nara had a vision about a new rift opening. But before reaching there, I must help Ree, Saf's wife. She sends a distress call. The militia there is under attack, so she requests a backup. I made it to the Stega Ring system where Ree currently is.
This is civilian vessel Salu, broadcasting on all emergency frequencies.
Cleansing doctrine.
Our engines are down. Somebody help us.
Hold on, Salu. Evade! Evade!
Please, our families!
Forza, target ahead.
Engaged. Direct hit. The reactor is unstable.
Too late.
No life signs detected. The circle is hailing us.
Let them through.
Venerated Elder, we are honored by your presence. All embrace the great prophet. Be in chorus.
Be in hell.
A new enemy, Charge Vulture. He charges, what a surprise, a laser, and you have to press A or D just before getting hit to avoid it. When you start getting more than one, it becomes quite tense, at least in the beginning. They deploy a shield depending on where you shoot them, front or back. While it's up, they don't move, only when it's down. You have to use the laser to take down the shield, or distance yourself until the enemy takes it down, or position Forza in such way that you can see the unshielded parts. I like this enemy. Early game, it offers quite a challenge, dodging lasers, trying to take down their shield, and they are not overly spongy. After this encounter, I need to investigate 3 places. The first I started asked for me to find 3 ships and give them coordinates to go to a rally point. The first 2 are in disbelief that a cold ship is rescuing them, but what choice do they have? As Nara says, flee or stay and die. The third ship is more interesting.
Pirate vessel will never let you on board.
You ain't listening. We could help each other get out.
Pirate vessel, state your intent.
Some of us are engineers. We could help shield their ship and everyone gets out alive.
You are offered the choice, kill or spare them. The pirate sounds sleazy enough to make you wonder if it's worth leaving them alive, but my thought process at this point was desperate measures for desperate times, so I let them live. Earlier I mentioned that some decisions you make affect some parts of the game and story. This is one of them. My choice of leaving them alive will help me later. The second place I visit, I see 2 refugee ships being chased by cultists, so the objective is to destroy them before they shoot down the refugees. I failed the first time, but on my second try, I wiped them out fast. The next objective in the third place is to liberate Ree from the influence of psychic totems. Hey, there is our new friend, the Charge Vulture, alongside with some buddies. I like how at first he was introduced on his own to get used to him and then escalate the threat a couple of minutes later. After that, all ships gather at the rendezvous point, which is the jump gate. I need to protect all the ships, including the pirates who, true to their word, came to provide support from the incoming cult attack, helping them crossing the gate and arriving at the Enclave. This is the biggest battle so far. Enemy ships flying, lasers swooshing past me, the music is pumping the action. It's just pure fun. I'm done with the first wave, but the second one is coming. And finally all ships cross the gate. As in Stega Central, I dive into the side quest first. Technically, it's one big with several stages. I won't talk about the whole thing in detail, but there is a new enemy, Raid class ship. He is shielded, so you have to destroy his engines, then some energy cells, and enter a sign to blow up its core. And you do this while ships and turrets are shooting at you. This type of enemy gets few variations, each one getting bigger and have more stages to its destruction. They are all quite fun to take down, especially the biggest one at the very end of the game. I really enjoyed the constant flow of new enemies to spice up the gameplay. There is always something new waiting, some new type of cool ship that requires a different tactic to take down. Besides that, I helped some people, but one of them betrays the rest and shoots the original quest giver. Again, I was presented with a choice, banish the deserters or not. I let them go because they acted in fear, not malice, and the person didn't die. They are afraid of the circle, you can hear it in their voice, and time again it's shown the consequences of that fear. In this part, Forza makes an interesting point.
They left the Resistance. You left the Circle.
I know.
And yet you judge.
I chose to fight the Circle.
He's judging her. He shows that he is more than a machine. These conversations are the heart of the story. Forza said he doesn't trust Nara, and she knows he has every right not to. However, with time and every loss and victory, every side or main quest, every experience they have during this journey makes Forza regain his trust in her, and in return, Nara becomes stronger and capable of taking down the Great Prophet. And you get all this through conversations between them. The maps are not big and the travel time is short, but can still become dull. There are random events and scavenging for credits, but this makes the traversal from one point to another much more engaging. It's time to get the high value intel that we talked about.
This ship shows a fake Enclave ID. It is a Circle ship. A trap.
No, I trust Ree. It's Nara. Ree sent me.
It's you. And that ship. So the rumors are true. Someone is breaking the Circle from within.
Not from within.
You came for information. I heard that the Great Prophet commanded the Sage to fortify the interstellar jump gate here. And fast. His failure to seize the Enclave weighs on the Sage's reputation. And I know how to push him further. Delay his operation even more.
All right, I'll check those coordinates.
Just make them bleed. They deserve it.
I will. Nara out. Ree, I met your spy.
All right. You must keep a low profile. Focus on precise strikes.
That won't be traced back to you.
Exactly. We need more intel and time to prepare. Do not approach the construction site they built around the jump gate.
Not yet. Nara out.
She doesn't know anything about you, and yet she counts on you.
We've been through a lot together in my years here. We're both Enclave now. She doesn't need to know everything about my past. She can trust who I am now.
That sounds familiar.
I know you don't trust me, but I trust you. Or try to.
From here we have 3 objectives to help disrupt the fortification of the jump gate. The first one I do is about destroying a Circle patrol, a new enemy, Phantom class ship. Next target is a Circle listening post. I need to download information from 3 points of interest by killing enemies while staying in range. What I found a bit strange is that as soon as you download the data, the enemies disappear for no good reason. I thought the Circle would want to defend such an important outpost. It makes no sense. Anyway, the objective is still not done. A satellite interference corrupts the data transfer, so I have to destroy 4 satellite cores to clear the signal. The third and final target is an outpost that can potentially have thousands of troops ready to strike. I need to destroy turrets, launch pads and weapon supplies while being shot from every direction. It's a fun encounter where you have to prioritize your targets. A new mod, increase hull strength. I'm putting this one in and not going to change it until I get another one that gives me even more durability later in the game.
Nara, another vision.
Yes, but stronger this time. And I saw more. The Inora installation in Amarok. I need to go there. Soon, I feel it. I must stop that rift.
We meet Saf in Selena Haven and he and Reed discuss the next step in the fight against the cult.
So you two have a plan?
We'll hit the Najara Citadel and take control of its jump gate.
Cutting off their main access route here.
That should stall their offensive.
But just for a while.
Even so, it will protect us, our home, our people.
And we'll do exactly that. Nara?
Of course. I'll meet you there. We will take Stega back.
Nara, better get ready. This is gonna be a big day.
Yes.
And an even bigger fight.
I'm rubbing my hands in excitement for the following battle. I'm expecting to be the biggest so far, with all enemies introduced so far, many objectives, lasers, missiles, and bullets flying everywhere. Even through dialogue, you get the impression it's going to be a huge fight, and probably that's why, before joining the others, you're specifically shown to visit the shop, and what my eyes see? A new rocket launcher. It has incredibly low reload speed, but it does bigger damage to the hull than my current one. I'm buying it. I'm prioritizing DPS than anything else in this case. It's time to hit and take back the Najara Citadel. And everything is as I expected, a massive fight. Enemy ships and turrets are trying to shoot me down while I'm doing the same with the pylon power cells. Good stuff. And hey, another enemy. Shade class ship. It deploys enemies, but it's easy to take down. Just shoot the cells underneath. And the Pirate's Eyes pair kept their promise and showed up. However, I noticed something in this whole section even on my first playthrough. I really hoped I was wrong, but my fears turned out to be true and this was exacerbated in the final mission. One of my biggest gripes with the game is that you're doing all the work. NPCs don't shoot anyone down. This ruins the immersion for me. You just see a large scale battle, but oddly enough, no explosions. I was really looking forward to the big fights, but they were a letdown. Don't get me wrong, those sections are fun, but they could be much better. I protected the team breaching the citadel and they took over it, got rid of all the enemies, a success, but Nara's mentor sacrifices himself to protect the incoming ships.
Welcome to cult-free space, people. I'm Sav, Chief of the Enclave. Head over to the Citadel, land, get some rest. You'll need it.
Chief, we have a situation. Unauthorized ships coming through.
What? Control, shut it down.
Negative, Chief. They're using a master code to override our access. It's a cult code.
Deploy the turrets. Call in the militia.
Code Red, we are under attack.
All combat personnel, scramble. Rally at the gate immediately.
All combat vessels scramble. We have the cult incoming. All combat vessels scramble.
Sav, I'm coming. What's your status?
Status is Code Red. Cult forces have broken through. We'll hold tight and protect the civilians. I could use some serious backup, Nara.
On my way, Sav.
No heroics, my friend.
Today is your cleansing. Burn them all, in chorus.
Not on my watch. Fire at will. Won't hurt them. Not while I'm here. For the Artok.
No! Sav, get out of there!
Damn it, Sav. Hold on.
Do you hear me, Sav? Get out of there!
His life support is failing. The Sage has no choice. He must finish him. The loss of a system must be punished.
Love you, Ree.
For Sav.
Now I must destroy the Circle Sage. This plays like a mini boss battle. He takes a lot of shots to take down and has a couple of tricks up his sleeve. deploys mines, shoot lasers, and stun you for a couple of seconds if you get too close. It's a fun fight, but can drag a bit too long.
Sage is down. Fallen.
Dead. Not sad. While I still live.
The Sage failed the circle, but more will come in his place.
And we will hunt them.
It's done. We're free. Stega's finally free.
Yes. About?
Sav. That stubborn old man.
He always put others first. Like you.
And you. Let's move on. I'll continue Sav's dream, his enclave, and I will protect everyone who comes here. Like the people coming through on those ships. They're all fleeing from the Amarok system.
Amarok system.
It's where the Resistance retreated. If Amarok falls, the entire Resistance goes with it.
I'll go there. Alone, Ree.
Yes, of course. Be safe. Sav trusted you. And I trust you. Goodbye, Nara. I'm heading to Sav's place now. It's almost time for his annual visit to the Artok wreckage.
It's a good tradition. Nara out.
There is no joy in their voices, a Pyrrhic victory. But there is also no time for mourn. Grief has to wait, there is so much to do, so many steps to victory. Ree will honor his memory by visiting his place, the Artok wreckage. I will visit it too very soon. My next quest is to check the shop to gear up and look at this beauty. The charging speed is a bit low, but that DPS. Shield or hull doesn't matter anymore. Lower tier enemies will go down like flies, and not only them. Also, there is a new rocket launcher. Everything is better than the previous one. It will pass hours before I change my rocket launcher. And that's the thing, you see a lot of mods and weapons with all different rarity, but most of them can be discarded. That's why it feels half-baked. It's like there was more to the loot than it ended up in the game. Maybe due to time constraints or whatever reason, but I feel kind of disappointed. But on the other side, this is a story-heavy space shooter game with linear progression, so the lack of choice doesn't matter, pick your poison. Next up is the Amarok system, and I just love the introduction.
I couldn't detect any rifts on our way through Amarok.
It was a premonition, Forza.
You speak differently. You are different.
What is the status here, Forza?
It's a silent war. No major confrontations yet.
And you're right. I am changing.
The first thing you see is this ominous looking temple, glowing red from its depths. The whole system is a lot darkened and has an oppressive atmosphere. I'm flying towards the structure, but the place is heavily guarded from turrets and ships, so a battle ensues. Perfect opportunity to test the new gear. Destroying everyone is not the end. A Circle Phantom class ship shows up and is heading to the entrance of the temple to self-destruct and seal it. Now I'm on a time limit. I have slightly more than a minute to destroy the ship. It's time for Nara to face herself once again.
Temple is opening.
Fighting the circle. My needs and goals are becoming attuned. The spirit passage hurts so deeply where I burned my rights.
We're closing distance.
You have done so well. Soon humanity will be free from endless war and chaos because of you. perfection, peace, all in harmony the chorus ascends.
You were clever, Nara. Lying low. It was the right choice. You need to focus on your future, not the hard road of others. You hear me?
Maybe this time they won't find me.
Now you get it.
This ain't happening. Not on my watch. You gotta make a deal first.
No, that's not how it works.
You must make the deal.
No!
Nara,
Forza!
be true to yourself.
Always.
You must listen to us.
I'm done with this.
Nara.
I'm good. Healed. The right.
You feel different. Stronger. More accepting.
I've accepted and dealt with a part of my past. Something I didn't like about myself. Hated myself for.
Good. I'm glad you're able to do that. It's impossible for many.
Rite of the Storm, hands down the best ability in the game. Besides disrupting these constant-looking corruptions, I really like the design, simple but effective. It completely destroys the shield of an enemy. It takes a lot of energy, but it's well worth it. When upgraded, this will come up later in the video, it will daisy chain multiple enemies and stun them for so long that they quite often will crush and burn. And the attack on the system is a perfect training ground for the Rite. As I'm about to leave the temple, I hear him, the great prophet.
The rift.
Yes, it's the prophet. He's calling them.
Forsake your petty endeavors. Embrace the chorus.
All forces, execute cleansing doctrine.
My visions.
Came true.
The faceless are here.
Then we'll...
Hunt them. There. The resistance.
They will fail.
And die. We must help them.
Agreed. We may need them soon.
I need to help the resistance. Nara's vision came true. While the rift has opened, there is still time to save the system. It's an intense battle. Just from the visuals, sound and music, you feel the urgency of the situation. There are also 2 new enemies introduced. From this moment, you start to see the Faceless more often, the menace that threatens the galaxy. I managed to save a big resistance ship, but things are about to get ugly for Nara.
Cleared. What's their status?
Heavily damaged.
But alive.
And here you are, exalted killer. You came back to finish us off yourself.
Damn.
Must it be him?
All their weapons are locking onto us. Is this an old friend of yours?
We've met. More than once. Many died.
On both sides.
Excellent. You were highly productive.
Silence machine.
Heed me, Butcher of Nimika. One wrong move, and you and your elder scrap metal will suck stardust.
I'm not here because of you, Cardo. Get out of my way or you will all die.
Murderous beast like you never change. It's time you pay for all the grief and pain you've caused, for all the havoc you've unleashed. Is your puppet master watching?
Combat protocol.
Engaged.
I don't expect forgiveness, Cardo. I'm here to close the rift. You can help, step aside, or die. Make your choice.
Their weapons are hot, Admiral. Battle stations. Burn her alive.
Stop, Majid.
Hold fire! What the hell are you doing, Ree?
I owe her my life. I know your grief, Majid. I know about your family on Nimika. But you must listen. Or face me and the Stega System militia.
Thank you, Ree.
Ree, I can seal this rift from the inside.
Impossible. You wouldn't survive its forces. Unless we cut a passage into it. The Enora installation laser. We can modify it. I need an engineer and a ship for them. Go here.
Understood.
And we'll need backup.
The Admiral won't risk any ships for me.
There's someone who might. Captain Aystan. But he and his ships disappeared.
Any last coordinates?
Here. Good luck out there. I'll talk to Cardo now. He will come round when he sees you doing what you do.
I'm not doing this for him.
I know. Bye, Nara.
3 objectives. The first one I took on was looking for an engineer. I reached the station almost fully corrupted by psychic totems and faceless ships are guarding the place. Going in and out of the station, dealing with turrets, ships in tight spaces. It's a great set piece. I quickly got rid of everyone and a new enemy is introduced, an elite raven. They can become invisible and only the right of senses can detect them, but they are no match for me.
The elite is dead.
I'm not detecting any others.
Rinak Haven, come in. You're clear of the cult.
This is Rinak Haven. Hey guys, the cult slayer freed us.
I'm looking for a few engineers.
Sorry, with so many refugees on board, our life support generators are over capacity. We need everyone to keep them running. Damn it. They'll break anyways if we don't get a backup soon.
Then we'll find you a new energy source. Nara out.
I wasn't sure where exactly is this place, so I went somewhere else where I got an excellent Gatling gun. Extremely slow rate of fire, shoots in bursts, but the damage is unmatched. And this is the main reason to do all side quests. They often give you good or even the best equipment. Depends how you see it. However, depending on the situation, I change it to a different one that has extremely fast firing rate but low DPS. I honestly see both options viable. It's all about the preferences of the player. I know I'm repeating myself, but again, I think the shop needed more weapon variety, at least when it comes to the stats. At the end I find a place with the energy source, which is a dark matter like Forza's core. I take it by Faceless Manifest. Just look at the sheer power of the Gatling gun. I take the source back to the station and Ariana, the engineer, agrees to help with the satellite. From here I do a couple of side quests and one gives me a right aspect, Right of the Hunt, makes it more powerful. One of the objectives of the main quest is to free resistance ships held in the shipyard. However, it's surrounded by lightning field and you die if you try to enter it at this current state. Forza even warned me that I can't do it.
But there's a wormhole that goes to a place where I might get an upgrade.
How could you know that?
I was constructed there. It's the special place I want us to visit.
That's where you came from?
Yes. The most unpleasant part of my existence.
After that I traveled to one of the main quests, Free Nimika Haven. Initially it was a different one, but this was closer. Another station overrun by corruption. I was a bit careless here and I died. It actually happened at the previous station too. Now it's time for Nora to keep her promise she made to Forza. I love the design going towards the wormhole. The rocks are arranged in a spiral. It's like going down a path of madness, and it is.
Right. I'm keeping my promise.
Yes.
And it's our only chance to get through that lightning and help Captain Aystan.
place?
No. Only the ship was created here. My essence was forced inside.
I understand.
Yes, you will soon.
This place bears strong memories of you, right?
This is my past. It's what turned me into what I am now.
I will sense them.
Good.
There is almost no music during this section, just ambient sounds which amplify the feeling of dread and uneasiness. This is a place of inhuman experiments where we see that Forza is more than just a weapon. The area also has some lightning clouds seen throughout the game, so be careful maneuvering around them.
Resonance. It works. There are conscious beings out there. Maybe I can use them. Somehow use their knowledge.
Majem was in charge. She discovered something, but the memory is unclear.
Your former mentor. She was resourceful.
It can feel. It worked. A sentient weapon. Beautiful.
Forza, these experiments.
Awareness imprisoned through unbearable pain.
I'm sorry.
We have enough of an elder. It's a 99% match. I've never seen such numbers before.
Who is the recipient?
Elder Nara, the great prophet's chosen.
This resonance pattern. It looks almost identical. Such a match. We were never able to surpass 80% before.
So we were a match, meant to be together.
You were meant to control me. I located a device that might install a hull upgrade if I can access the program.
Okay.
I'm going slowly towards the upgrade, but there is more than that.
Do you understand now, Nara, why I wanted to show you?
You thought I'd give up? After closing the new rift?
I wanted you to know the entire truth. All of it. Those deeds, thoughts, emotions. They can never be undone.
Or forgiven.
What have they done to you?
It doesn't matter. It's gone.
You don't speak like a machine anymore.
If you allow me, I will modify my hull here to protect us from lightning clouds. It will also let me channel their energy to fuel your inner strength.
You're asking for my permission.
I'm your ship. Your machine, Elder.
Permission granted.
You shouldn't have.
Forza? What? What is going on? I can't control you. It's you. Why are you doing this?
What am I doing? I am not your slave anymore. I am free. You left me behind for 7 years, and you think I would just trust you again? I made you a promise. I did, but did I have a choice, Nara?
I gave you a choice.
You call that a choice? To follow you as your slave, or to stay buried forever?
I was scared. I only
thought of my pain. And I treated you like always. Like my asset. Forgive me, Forza. Space me or whatever you want. But please, forgive me.
You are better. You fight to protect now, not to punish or conquer. But I had to know the full truth to decide on my own. I'll fly with you, and yet, if you ever stop hunting him, our paths will part, and I will crush him on my own. But from now on, we act as equals. Do you agree?
I agree.
I found data of recent activity. Enter the lab and the hangar.
Yes, I will. It's Elder Majem. She's inside, right?
Yes. Trying to build a new ship.
That's madness.
Elder Majem?
Nara, you should have... Stay away! It's mine!
Do not lose sight of her.
I won't.
Engines powering up.
I'll disrupt them.
Detonating it. Evade.
And battle ensues. The revelations here are surprising, especially when you see what they've done trying to replicate Forza. Elder Majem is in such pain, unable to be in control.
We got her.
Elder Majem, it's me.
Nora?
What's going on?
I am leading the ship. So much power. I did something bad. Get to the lab. Don't you dare interfere!
Forza, what is it?
Someone tried to replicate me.
The same.
Torches. Yes. Again. This place has caused enough suffering.
It ends now and forever.
Rip it apart.
The prototype is behind that barrier.
Destroy its energy supply.
Barrier's down.
Now, end its suffering.
This tech could have helped the others. Fighting. No, it mustn't. Not ever.
Nara, thank you. You will never see us again.
Oh, I will face Majem later in the game. Now it's time to free the rebel forces. There is one interesting side quest here, quite lengthy actually, but I'm going to leave it for you to experience it. Morality, dangerous weapons, etc. All I will say is that I got at the end an extremely good rocket launcher. Small clip size, slow reload speed and firing rate. It compensates with sheer destructive power. Before entering the place where the ships are kept, there is a bit where Nara talks to Forza about his past. This is actually relevant in the grand scheme of things.
Forza, about your name.
Yes,
Where did it come from?
I have had it since my beginning.
Before you were inside this ship?
No. During my process, through the torment and pain, one word echoed inside me.
Forsaken.
So I made it my name.
But you could change it.
Why should I? Would another name alter my reality? No. I shall keep it.
I see. Forsa, when you were changed, were you alone?
No. But I was the first. Then there were others.
That must have been hard.
I watched them ripped from whatever they were and forced into these ships. One by one, I felt such rage.
And you can't remember anything from before?
I do not think on before. All that matters is now.
But your past. You never wonder about it.
Why should I? This is who I am, and I have made peace with myself.
That may be my biggest challenge.
Yes.
The reason why I stay in one place during all conversations is because I found on my first playthrough that if a random event spawns, it interrupts it and it never continues or restarts. This is so annoying. It doesn't bother only me, other people complain about it. When you consider these conversations are a big part of the story and shows character growth, it's mind-boggling this was never fixed. I can finally go through the lightning fields and the ships and their crew are still alive but kept locked in one place. When I start freeing them, the cult decide to gas them, so I am on a timer now. I need to free them before everyone dies. I actually made it literally in the last possible second. Once it's done, I need to get onto a Spirit class ship to destroy the lightning field power generator that's trapped everyone here. It's time to obliterate the cult forces. It's a good fight. It offers variety of objectives. You take for a spin a Spirit class ship, a new enemy is introduced. Good stuff. I destroy all enemy ships and Cardo wants to talk. Before that, I start scavenging for hidden credits, got into a fight with faceless ships, and then I noticed for some reason the interact button changed from E to X and you can't rebind keys. The layout is perfect, but why I can't do it? Makes no sense. And why are the buttons swapped if I can't rebind them? This is one of the few bugs I encounter, if it's even that. The other one was me getting stuck in an object and almost died. I meet the resistance and they are all eager to fight thanks to the inspiration Nara gave them. And we all go straight to the rift.
The resistance. A tight hiding place for a fleet.
The rock's mineral composition blocks long-range sensors.
They need every advantage. Their equipment, it's...
outdated and no match for the Circle.
They depend on us.
Over there, the Macahaven ships.
All intact.
I hope Ree can use them.
Nara! Attention everyone, she's here.
Captain Aystan.
This is who saved us. It's quite a story.
Another time, Captain.
Of course.
Ree, come in. How's the Rinak Haven engineer working out?
Ariana? She's brilliant.
Oh, Ree, you're brilliant. We'll get her into the rift in no time.
We're almost there, Nara. Ree out.
There she is! The Cult Slayer! Over there! A lot of grateful people here, Nara.
Listen to them. They look up to you.
I never wanted this.
But you'll need their support.
It's time to have that talk.
Yes, Admiral.
So, Nara, you really want to kill your former master? Will this rift lead to him?
I don't know. But if I don't close it right now, everything you ever fought for ends.
I see. Everyone, set course for the Enura installation.
In the meantime, Ariana and I will take control of its laser.
And I'm your escort.
Exactly. They'll modify the emitter tower, and the Resistance will have your back.
On my signal, we'll carve a passage into that rift.
It'll only be open for a few seconds.
That's all I need. I'll get through.
Nara, we're ready.
That thing above us is terrifying.
And soon it could swallow our entire reality.
We'll move fast. First, we will repolarize this external shield node. Then, the control tower.
And that should make that installation shoot a concentrated beam into the rift.
Carving a passage.
My task is to protect Ariana while she's working on the installation. The cult is throwing at us a lot of ships that can take a lot of beating to take down, but I prevail, and just as I'm about to go through the rift, a demon class ship appears and blocks the laser. This is one of the instances I swapped the rocket launcher. I need a bigger clip because there are a lot of power cells to destroy. The battle here is pretty cool and chaotic. I also have to protect Captain Aystan. He is swarmed by faceless ships. Look at them, they look like flies circling around him. Gardo also needs my help. A lot of them are shooting the demon class ship, so they can't protect themselves, I guess. Not that they don't have turrets or anything. Once the shield energy cells are down, I'm going inside to finish the job and make it into the void dimension.
Careful, Nara.
Our passage into the void. Finally.
I'm a force in the shadows.
All energies passing through the rift flow towards this faceless.
It feeds on all we suppress. Our fears, nightmares, ambitions. And it anchors the rift.
We must destroy it.
We will.
And what a sight to see. A faceless that is spread like roots of a tree, or maybe tentacles. The design of the boss and area look simultaneously alien and familiar. This is the first out of 2 boss battles. When I get close to him, it activates. I love and hate this boss. It spins his tentacles and you have to shoot first the regrowth seals and then his weak points or blisters. After that you need to escape an explosion blast radius by going inside an open tentacle and blast another weak point. Here is the issue. The tentacles are so long and I never seem to have time to find the entrance and I always die. Loading the checkpoint puts you in front of the entrance. Even the devs seems to realize this might happen, so they put a checkpoint right after the destruction of the blisters. Repeat the process 2 more times. One of the things I like is inside the arm. It feels a bit like Star Wars. The other thing is how frantic the whole battle is. Dodging lasers, avoid big light beams that destroys your shield. You desperately spinning around to shoot the blisters while the faceless manifestation is taunting you. On the 3rd try, I somehow managed not to die in the blast, but barely. When all his arms are destroyed, he starts teleporting around you and you have to hit its last remaining weak point, his heart.
Splintered from the Prophet. It must not fall to the faceless again.
Nara.
I'm okay, but Forza, I could feel his pain. Forza, it's done. We sealed the rift.
Now everyone will see that the cult is not invincible, and even rifts can be closed.
So there is still hope.
There always was.
For others, but not for me.
You came through, Nara, and we are in your debt. This victory changes many things.
Glad to be of service, Admiral. Now we must find the Prophet and kill him.
Or there will be more rifts.
Somehow he's the trigger. Admiral Cardo, I fear our battles
are far from over, yes. To kill the snake, you must crush its head. We've detected several rebellions on cult worlds. The news is spreading, and each day, more join our ranks. But it's going to be a long war, without end, unless we stop him.
I will find him, Admiral. Believe it.
I'm staking my fleet and many lives on it. Good hunting, Nara.
Thanks. And Ree, stay safe.
Always.
You don't know how to stop him.
I know where to start. The Kinnook Fields.
The Circle's most sacred ground.
Where it all began. Where the Faceless found him. And where his secrets lie.
Even I perceive power here. But it has changed into perfect darkness.
And it's growing.
The void's long dark of night. The Faceless taint.
The Kinnook Fields is where the game slows down the action a bit and delves more into the Prophet and the Faceless. Before going to the temple, I do a side quest which is on my path, and the reward is an energy upgrade. Reaching it introduces the swarm, small things that really like to latch on you. For now, the best way to deal with them is the rocket launcher. Some of the later temples have branching paths that lead to goodies. In this case, I find the memory left from Nara when she was here the first time. There are some optional memories to find which give away a great deal of the Prophet's life and goals.
Great Prophet, that is true power.
Yes, it is. And our path to chorus.
It's only the start.
Great Prophet, I am ready for my last rite.
Nara, your being has become so pure, in harmony with all, you will surpass all elders.
Surpass all elders. But only he achieved that.
Perhaps he recognized your potential.
There's more. Beyond my rights.
This galaxy, so broken, in pain. And humankind lives in bleed with each new war, uncaring, savage.
I believed the Prophet longed for peace.
A worthy goal.
Destroying Nimika didn't bring peace.
All is ancient. Such pure power. It could destroy us all. And I truly control it.
The Prophet, he had doubts.
He's human, isn't he?
Yes.
It's hard to think of him as human.
The song of the void will resonate through me. Reach this reality, bonding us together, eternally. I'm ready, feel it. One more ritual.
The Prophet attuned to the Faceless. In a ritual.
The ritual site must be near.
I reach the center of the temple where Nara has to face herself again.
Your will and your strength burn away the past. Let us free humanity from its selfish chaos. We stand united. One voice. In the name of the Prophet, we strike. One force. Let them feel the light of the chorus!
Chorus.
Nara, we can choose.
Rite of the Star. You can spear through specific weak points, but most importantly through enemies, either destroying them or dealing massive amount of damage. Great way to deal with the swarm. At a later point in the game, when this is upgraded, you can gain a big boost of speed for a short period of time. There is a lot of conversations between Nara and Forza here, which are well worth listening to, but I'm not going to show all of them, or the video will become even longer. The next destination is the ancient ritual site. On my way there, I took a detour for a side quest. While this lasts, Nara has an interesting look on the faceless. I love these drips of information and how natural they feel. At the end of the day, it's a conversation between two people, almost. The gate at the ritual site is closed, so I can't just waltz in. I circle around to destroy a couple of growth seals, turrets, blisters and some faceless ships, one which is new. Then I find a giant drill that I need to move so I can enter the cave system that Forza detects to shoot even more blisters. All this removes the faceless energy that keeps the entrance locked. Once all destroyed, I return to the fully open entrance. There are 3 tablets here, interacting with each one gives a glimpse of the past on how the ritual was performed.
This place truly is the heart. I feel how it bleeds the void's darkness into our world as the faceless.
3 pillars holding the tablets for the Prophet's ritual.
Still resonating his memories.
For the fractured souls of the ancients shall wander the eternal space of the faceless. Let our prophet pass and unite what is parted.
Fractured souls wandering in the void.
I remember the agony.
In Amarok, where they trapped you in the ship.
For those who face themselves shall attain perfect harmony. Let our prophet pass in everlasting chorus with you.
This wisdom is from Nimika, like a song I almost knew, now washed away my pain.
For the faceless void, replete with what we suppress. Our dreams, our guilt, our potential. Let our prophet pass and reveal your eternal power.
Yes, this truth feels familiar. It reminds me of the Stega system, its temple.
There, the energies formed an echo.
Of the ritual.
It's more powerful than a memory.
A vision.
There, it's the Prophet.
And your former disciple.
It's distorted.
The Prophet's powers still resonate here.
I must fully harmonize. Razar will be my anchor.
I'm a force In the shadows of his past and my present, we become one.
Great Prophet, I identified the traitors.
I trust you contained them.
I killed them myself, but now the Resistance knows about this place.
It changes nothing. I will conduct the ritual.
Yes, Great One. I will keep them out.
For a couple of minutes you play as Rosar, Nara's pupil. In terms of gameplay, you can't drift and you don't have any rights. This threw me off a bit because in the past 7-8 hours I was using all of them constantly. Rosar has to defend the Prophet and the ritual site from traitors and rebels that want to stop him. Initially outside, but after that inside where the heart is. Captain Cardor leads the attack before he was Admiral, however his attempt was unsuccessful and he has to retreat.
Let our Prophet pass and reveal your eternal power.
Unite what is parted.
In everlasting chorus with you.
We have been disparate forces in the shadows, but united, we overcome discord and embrace eternal harmony in chorus.
The Prophet. He found a way into the void. To them.
He's still there.
Yes. And for a brief moment, I heard his voice in chorus with the Faceless. We must return here and perform the ritual.
Yes, we must.
I have to visit 3 places to find 3 tablets to gain the knowledge to perform the ritual. The first place I visit is the TARDIS lab where Forza was created. It's swarmed with enemies that deploy mines. I have to shoot down energy cells that power the communication tower to stop reinforcements coming. After dealing with the circle forces, I checked all the memories. They all depict a horrifying reality of experimenting with people and ships using one of the tablets. The scientists try to replicate what they did with Forza, but more often than not either the ship or the pilot are going insane, ending with a tragic death. But none of the attempts were successful because, as Forza says, it requires harmony between the pilot and the ship. Nara senses a twisted life force, probably a gem. Moving away from the lab, there is a crack in an asteroid through which I can spear. I noticed it on my first visit, but I couldn't do anything because I didn't have the necessary ride. Going inside, I see the tablet, but it's protected by shield, so there must be another way in. Faceless forces greet me after I exit the rock. The entrance to this place opens, but there are these interdimensional portals that hide the way to the tablet. This reminds me of the Prince of Persia Sands of Time section, where you have to navigate through doors listening to the sound of water. Going through the wrong door will put you back at the beginning of the section. The difference with Chorus is that here the proper way is shown to you. For the sake of seeing what will happen, I decided to explore some of the other portals. I think there is a weapon hidden here, but I'm not sure about that. I tried to find if I'm right by going through my recordings on my first playthrough, but there was nothing. I think I forgot to capture this section. Anyways, I found the tablet, but my gem is there. I have to shoot her down, but it's not a straight fight. She has 2 phases. In the first one, you can't use the Rite of the Storm because she throws it right back at you, so you have to use only weapons to wear her down. As soon as she changes her life and shield bar with a yellow one, you can use it to stun and blast her. Forza or Nara will comment something that will indicate when you should and shouldn't use Rite of the Storm, which is kind of annoying. After the first couple of times, have more faith in the player. There is a visual indication what and when to do it. However, things like this are the exception, not the rule. She also uses the same interdimensional teleport to jump around the place and attack you from behind. Rinse and repeat until my gem is destroyed. It's an okay fight. I died twice because I wasn't careful enough, especially when chasing her. She likes to deploy when you get too close a field that disables Forza for a few seconds and takes the shield down. I think she's too much of a bullet sponge. It took me 5 minutes to kill her, and the constant repeating when to and not to use the storm was getting kind of annoying. Anyway, my gem left a memory in which I see she tried to keep everyone from the tablet because she knew how dangerous and corrupting it can be, but it doesn't matter. I need the tablet. And I also learned how Forza got his name.
I dreamed of strange things alone with Memories. I wonder.
Forza, remembering the past is not always a good thing.
I have one, whether I remember it or not. Forgetting changes nothing.
As you wish, Elder. Essence linking process started.
I can feel. Inside me. Get away. Subduing. Executing.
Of course. Forza, do you remember anything before this ship?
Only pain.
Your essence was a fragment, trapped in the void. This tablet channeled it, or you.
Into this ship, as my new body. Yes, Nara, there's more you must know. I remember wandering endlessly, searching. An agonizing emptiness kept me going, so restless and alone. Lost.
Forsaken.
Yes.
I traveled to Stega Rim, and Kirim reports that another Circle Elder shot down his own and headed to Stega Central, where the next tablet is. Ree is after him to investigate. Somehow, I missed a side quest here, so I finished it and traveled to Stega Central. Arriving there, Ree tells me that the Circle are chasing Rasar, Nara's disciple. We play as him an hour or two ago. Before going for the tablet, I did a side quest involving pirates. I don't remember doing it on my first playthrough, however, it felt kinda incomplete and I couldn't figure it out if I am missing something. I have to get the support of all 3 pirate clans, but I met only 2. I just don't know where is the third one. It's not on the map and the quest giver disappears after talking to her. Very weird conclusion. I did every side quest in every system, so I wonder if it's a bug. I can't explain it otherwise, but at least I got a Gatling gun with sick firing rate that don't overheat that easily. Earlier in the game I did a lengthy side quest, I helped some people, and this is the result. I met one of them and in gratitude they gave me another Gatling gun with insane DPS. It's time to visit Sav's place, the Artok wreckage, the one Reed talked about, and see why he used to come here every year.
But I sense echoes of his past. Memories. They may tell us.
Sav's past. The Artok. 29,584 crew members. And 9,854 families. All dead. 52 escaped. All found. All cleansed. No survivors. The legacy of my greed. Of my betrayal.
Sav lived with every moment of what happened, of what he caused, of his taint.
And now, do you want to know everything?
He was my friend. I will face his pain.
As you choose.
I sense his energies. The trail of his soul.
More dead. What's its origins designation? The Artok. Sounds so familiar. Oh no. No. It can't be. The blessed stars. It's the carrier from that root log I traded to them. Sold them out to the cult. They're gone. All slaughtered because of me.
Sav didn't know the Artok ended up here.
He denied his actions.
No, he never forgot what he did.
Or forgave.
And there's more.
I must know.
Hardly anybody really understands what happened here. What it means when thousands die. Well, they're dreams ended. They never breathed. But she sees it. Nara knows death. She is haunted. There's a darkness inside her. I can feel it. I know it. What did she see? What did she do?
Sav recognized who I really was.
But you never told him about Nimika.
I didn't need to. He somehow felt my taint.
Nicole's back. I failed to keep them out. Nora's right. There's no running from them. Definitely not from me. I will protect the Enclave and everyone in the Stega system. Even if it costs me my... I sure as hell deserve it.
In the end, he kept his promise and kept the people safe from the Circle.
But it did not change what he did.
No. And he knew that, but acted anyway. We're done here.
I will remember the Artok.
Yes. I will too. Always.
And I'll forgive Sav. It's more than I ever deserve.
I love how everyone in this universe is tainted by something they did. I didn't show it, but even Cardo is willing to do absolutely everything to reach his goal. There are a lot of conversations that give a glimpse inside of many side characters. Good stuff. My next destination is the second tablet. When I was closing on the temple, it looked a bit different than the others so far, kinda gothic looking architecture. And with the light in the background, makes it feel uneasy going there, but it looks impressive. It's probably because I came from the right angle. This definitely feels pre-planned. Lazar is nowhere to be seen, but Circle forces showed up to protect the temple. After killing all of the enemies, I glanced him for a brief moment, entering inside before me. I followed him and found a memory that goes a bit deeper in what he did. Attack the Prophet. More people are standing up against him. The trail leads to a new enemy, the Sentinel. It consists of two parts that rotate independently, each with his own weak point. It shoots a laser at you and teleports after a certain time. They are fun to fight. After that, Lazar shows up and really wants to take the fight to the Prophet, but he can't do it. I need a tablet, only I can do it. In the center of the temple, another mini-boss battle awaits. Another Sentinel, but bigger. It uses a couple of different attacks, but I've already seen them in the first major boss. Lasers, light beams, spinning its body, etc. From this point on, I started to notice some repetition in the attack patterns of some enemies, but I like the design of the Sentinel. It looks like it was made from the crystals found in old temples, indicating its faceless outerworldly origin. Destroying the Sentinel is a rather challenging fight due to the enclosed space. Razar understands he can't fight the Prophet and he should leave the tablet to me.
That thing was different. Have you ever seen anything like that?
Not in the waking world.
It somehow got to me. But you were serene.
Razar, listen. I will take the tablet now. You stay back. Now open the barrier.
I don't have a choice, do I?
The tablet, at last.
I hate you. Curse you, Don't come any closer! Stay away!
Everything we suppress manifests in the faceless void, like fragments of our true nature that we
Restrain, reject, and forsake.
Yes. We're all part of this.
A source for the faceless.
Let's leave. We're done here.
Elden. Quite a fight, wasn't it? I guess I owe you...
You want the Prophet dead?
I'd give my life for it.
I saw that. Serve under my command and...
We'll fight the Prophet together? To that end, I will serve you, Elden.
It's Nara now. And Razar, you've become strong. But it won't matter against him when the time comes.
I will stand by your side. Until then, goodbye, Nara.
Forsa, about the tablet, what you said in there.
It felt very familiar. Personal. That is all I can say. It is troubling me.
I feel it.
There is one place I need to visit before going for the next tablet, a lightning field not far from the temple. Initially, you can't go there because the lightning will strike you, but after the upgrade in the lab, you can go there at any time. But the game is designed in such a way that the story will lead you back close to the field. And what's the reward? A Rite of the Storm fragment. I think this is perfect opportunity to talk about the rites. They are similar to the weapons. The more you use them, the more proficient they become. Everything can go up to 5 levels, giving you more and more bonuses. Weapons can reload faster or overheat less. Rites can extend their durability. In case of the storm, it's 50% more disruption just for using it. I really like this system. Combine all the weapon stats like overheating, clip size, etc, different type of enemies that require different approach, and the rites, the extension to your arsenal, and you have a simple and elegant solution to making you proficient in combat. No points to put in skill trees, no complex upgrade system. You and Nara as an extension are becoming better just by using all the available tools. The downside is that some rites are miles better than the other. When you start collecting the energy fragments, you become more powerful, and in this case, the Rite of the Storm, you can daisy chain multiple ships. It's impressive and really powerful, but makes some of the others obsolete. For the past 10 hours or so, I haven't used Rite of the Hunt, because Spear and Storm are much more useful. This is another gripe I have with the game, along with the underdeveloped, at least that's how it feels, loot system. Speaking about the loot, this is also related to the rites. The ship has only 3 spaces for mods, and since the rites are a big part of the gameplay, I opted out of using many of the parts available. In both playthroughs, I always ended up extending my energy bar with 2 power mods and 250 more hull in the 3rd slot. The better you get with them, the more power they require. I never saw point of using the utilities like faster engines or 12% more shield. You need the abilities to survive the latter half of the game. Maybe adding 2 more slots can make the other parts to be considered. And you might think you become overpowered, but believe me, even without additional slots, enemies are no match for you, so why not fully embrace the power fantasy? Or maybe just rebalance the game. Yeah, I know I'm asking too much. And this is on the 3rd out of 4 difficulties. It's not particularly challenging game, but you can change the difficulty at any time from the options. I love when devs don't lock you in your chosen difficulty. Let's move on to the last world in the game, Nimika Prime, where the story started.
To this world and its life.
Forsa, will they know me as their former elder or the hated cult slayer?
They will know you as who you are.
Right.
All that matters now is the tablet's wisdom at the heart of Silverhaven. It's lying there.
They built this eternal haven to keep it safe.
Away from the Pilgrims.
Safe for all who prove themselves true seekers of wisdom. As you will.
Soon.
Following the Seeker's virtues, it might have prevented all this.
This part here kind of confuses me story-wise. In Nimika, we peek behind the curtain of the circle. Even if they are not called cultists, they act like one. But in Nimika, I understand that all this talk about Chorus are not a fanatical word of a self-proclaimed prophet, but it's a religion. It's never given a specific name, but from my understanding of the plot, the Circle is a splinter group that grows in influence thanks to their charismatic leader, the Great Prophet. They become quite big, even become a danger to the galaxy. Nimika is the center of Chorus, with all its pilgrims that comes here to seek wisdom, meditate, etc. However, the Circle is almost in full control of the place. But here also is where Marked 1, a gift youth, are trained. If they are not helped with that, they can become a danger to others and themselves. There are some unanswered questions lingering. I'll discuss them as they come. And since this is the last system, let's have a chat about the levels. They are not in a traditional sense levels. Each system in the galaxy is a small open world area. From one end to the other, it will take you more or less 5 minutes or so to reach the edge, and the game will prompt you to go back. However, they are packed with activities, so there will be always something to do. While you think it's mostly rocks in space, and they are to a certain degree, but there is a lot of passion put in all aspects of the world. There are plenty of buildings, hidden ominous areas that quest leads you to, temples, and even a factory. The only place you can enter with a ship are the temples. They feel foreboding and unwelcoming, especially with the red crystals signaling the faceless presence. And you often hear a track that reminds me of Mongolian throat singing, which amplifies all those feelings. The background of each system is fantastic, giving each place a unique feeling. Stega is sunny and bright, with rings in the sky from another planet nearby. Not very populated, feels like it's the edge of the galaxy, and it is. Amarok is dark, menacing, and your introduction to the system is awesome. You see this creepy looking temple, glowing red in the center, drawing your attention, but it's very foreboding. And Fishlabs, tucked away from people, a place shrouded in darkness and pain. In between all those rocks, there are plenty of places that really stand out. Kinnock Fields is a frozen world, literally and figuratively, and it's a place with many secrets just waiting to be discovered. Nimika Prime has a neon look, vibrant, colorful, lively, full of people and lights. You feel like this is the capital of the galaxy. Major trading routes go through Nimika and it's a religious center. But as you explore, you'll understand that not everything is as it seems. Those who peek behind the curtain and open their eyes are hunted and or fear for their life. Kidnapping, weapon smuggling, or being attacked because someone felt like it. It's something people have to live on a daily basis. All this makes the worlds of Chorus memorable, beautiful, and distinctive. Before this discussion, I just arrived in Nimika Prime. For now, I have to focus on helping some refugees attacked by Elder Cyrus Legion, one of the key players in this part of the story and an antagonist we'll definitely face. This is done to establish the iron grip of the circle, and they do whatever they want. Most of the side quests in Nimika are helping people oppressed in some way by the Legion. They're willing to blow up a neighborhood if they have to. Few side quests later and many circle ships destroyed, I'm heading for the temple that holds the last tablet, but entering it won't be a simple task. I need to prove myself by becoming a seeker.
Curious. One reminds me of...
I know. Quiet now.
Who are you, Pilgrim?
I am no one, Guardian.
What is your path, Pilgrim?
I am seeking wisdom.
Then find the one who knows your truth, who speaks as your voice. Call them.
Where the song of the void rises.
Leave now, Pilgrim, until we meet again as seekers.
The voice must willingly accept your request.
I know.
After all that's happened, will he accept a bond with me?
The place of the void song. So you will choose Awan as your voice. I thought he died in the rift.
No, he was one of those sacred guardians.
I can hear the void here.
Not the void. It's the ether's energy singing the void song.
Awan will hear it, wherever he is. Let us begin.
I must travel to a sacred altar to attune myself with the Song of the Void and ask Awan to be my voice in front of the Guardians. In terms of gameplay, I need to destroy corruption clusters before they regrow. If you're wondering who Awan is, well, so was I. He is mentioned only once in the intro sequence.
That was the last one.
I never dreamed of something so harmonious.
You still dream?
Yes. Once. This is perfect. A reflection of Chorus.
It's a twisted shadow. Can't you see?
I must join in the song now.
We miss the final pair of voices. Who will join you? Bonded to you in wisdom and voice.
Awan.
Tune.
You got this, Nara.
always be our fight. Sister in chorus.
Awan, in the rift, you made a promise. I need you now.
He will not accept.
Awan, please listen.
Nora, you...
You heard.
What are you doing? This song, it will bind us even in death.
You made a promise.
You abandon your people.
And I left you, my brother in chorus.
Your brother. Oh, Nora.
He accepted. Interesting.
I'm a seeker of wisdom, and he's my voice.
Nora, come in. Let's meet. It's been too long.
Yes. On my way.
Nora, I see new purity in you. At least a little.
Awan, I returned for the tablet's wisdom.
So, you are going after the Prophet. I feared this day, but I'm ready. We Seekers see the truth of the Prophet, his corruption, and many have lost faith in him. They long for purity. Some even rise up.
The circle is failing.
No, not yet. Elder Cyrus and his legion enforce order, while the people suffer from his corruption and discord. But we, as Seekers, must provide wisdom, share it with all people. Nora, go out there as one of us, and exemplify chorus. Help those suffering devious assaults. The truth shall guide them, and you.
And the path of virtues?
Yes, in the Canute Fields, you will be tested beyond the needs of the waking world. All this is your path to wisdom, your way to the tablet.
I understand.
You will. In chorus, Nora.
In chorus.
This is the part that I struggle to understand. Awan was in the circle, then in Nimika 7 years ago, now he is just a secret guardian as before? How's that work? Maybe I'm overthinking it, and maybe I'm captivated by this world and religion that I want to know more. There is a lengthy and interesting side quest about the training of the disciples, but I'm not going to delve into it. However, I have questions about them. I know the disciple training is for what? What is their purpose, besides not being danger to themselves and others? At some point you get an interesting conversation with the one who shares part of the Prophet's backstory and what might very well be the thing that pushed him to deviate and become who he is now. Not everything is black and white in this world. This is the part where you have to revisit previous places, but now with access to new locations there. I didn't find it annoying because it comes so late in the game and it offers new experiences. The path of virtues are trials that Nara must complete to become a seeker and gain access to the tablet. These tests will show if Nara grew or she learned nothing throughout her journey. The first is honesty about herself, her lies, her doings, and acceptance of what lies within her.
So, who are you?
Name's Nara. I heard you were hiring scavengers.
That's right. We got only one rule. No ties to the circle. Anything you'd like to tell me?
No.
Then welcome, Scavenger Nara.
I lied, and so did he. But my lies killed him.
We need to get inside. Follow the trail.
What is waiting inside?
Truth.
A guilt manifestation. But it doesn't move.
It's waiting for something. I'll focus on this memory.
I killed Nimika Prime. I abandoned my friends. I am beyond redemption, but not retribution. They cannot go unpunished. As one, we will strike. Together. This ends with us.
Can it be my possible future?
Only the truth in its entirety can save you. Listen, you bear the burden of billions who died.
Yes, I always will. It's a part of me.
Yes, part of you. Once more, deep inside, what is the real you? Will you abandon your loyal friends again to save yourselves?
No, never again. If this means I die, then I welcome it.
Yes, secure, honest. The final truth. Are we faceless? A manifestation of pure hate.
Yes. And no. You manifest everything we suppress.
Honesty is more than truth. It's accepting all that exists inside me. I must accept all.
The next path is humbleness, where Nara can find true harmony, accept the faceless nature, and achieve chorus. This means surviving for 30 seconds without shooting them.
Why? Nara! Why did you strike? We weren't...
Fall back into formation, pilot. I can end this. I will crush them all. Fire!
No. This can't be my future. The faceless feed on my hatred for them and my passion for destroying them all.
Faceless manifesting.
I will not fight them, but I will stay.
What? That is...
To survive, I must accept their nature.
They stopped attacking. Incredible.
There's nothing left they could feed on. Not here.
But so much more remains suppressed in the universe. This peace won't last.
The last memory now.
True harmony. Chorus. Rests on true humbleness.
I'm just a part of the universe's balance.
The third and final is bravery, something she must be constantly and do everything to her capabilities to fight the faceless. Probably that's why the trial is to use only her rites to defeat the enemies.
This territory is lost, Captain. The beast Majam is out there, hunting us.
Yes, but if I reach the haven before she does, they have a chance to run.
I cannot send anyone with you.
Understood.
Good luck, Captain. Dismissed.
He risked his life for people he didn't even know, and the Admiral risked his best officer.
I have lost all tactical control.
Then I must rely on myself.
And your rights. They are part of you.
And now, the final memory.
Only the truly brave will embrace absolute, all-encompassing harmony. Bravery must be my constant, my anchor.
We can control our weapons again.
Then we're done here. Let's move.
I didn't like it particularly much. I think it's probably due to the fact that the game takes away a big part of the gameplay just to leave you with your rights, but that's a nitpick. I successfully completed the Path of Virtues, so it's time to head back to Nimika and access the tablet. I do a few more side quests from which I got some new gear, including new Gatling gun and rocket launcher that both do very good DPS. Before going to the temple, Awan asked me to investigate an accident. It starts with a memory that shows Pilgrims embracing the explosion.
Forza, can void crystals just explode?
Highly unlikely.
But whatever burned those pilgrims reminds me of psychic totems.
But what can cause such a destruction? The next memory shows Circle people wanting to leave the debris intact to serve as a warning to the other pilgrims.
Leave some debris for the pilgrims.
But there are still bodies floating.
Good. It'll be a warning. They've wasted enough of our water supplies.
Could Elder Cyrus's people be involved?
Are you suggesting Elder Cyrus is killing pilgrims? The same people the Prophet entrusted to his care?
Maybe. He fears losing influence with so many of them here.
The pilgrims are more faithful to the sacred guardians.
And they dread Cyrus.
Venerated Elder, it worked. I still have the other prototype.
Do not let fear corrupt you, Legionnaire.
No, I'm ready. I'll do it.
Your loyal sacrifice shall cleanse you. In chorus.
He made a prototype weapon using void crystals. I quickly noticed that the traffic has stopped and the Legionnaire is somewhere between all these ships. I immediately start scanning them for the prototype weapon. And there he is. I can't risk shooting him down, causing innocent people to die, but I immediately gave chase. Pirates and Cyrus Legion tried to stop me, but unsuccessfully.
They're all dead. But him. Let's follow.
Will you shoot?
No.
But this is a trap.
Yes.
I'm detecting massive energy spikes. This temple pillar is an amplifier. Shoot him.
Knowing this is a trap, I follow the Legionnaire and he has a special message for me.
I have a message for you.
I've been waiting for you, Naran. You couldn't resist the lure of such a powerful weapon. I knew you'd want it. Just like you couldn't part with your mighty ship.
You know me well.
Yes. We were the same. Until you betrayed us. Until you betrayed him.
The weapon is charging.
Yes. Out now. The right of the star.
The explosion went so badly for the sector that it made it blurry, glitchy and low poly for some reason. In my first playthrough, nothing like this occurred.
We made it out.
And Cyrus will assume you died.
Maybe. At least the weapon is neutralized. Awan, come in.
What was that, Nora? An open fight with Cyrus' Legion? It's a declaration of war.
It's the consequences of truth.
Nora.
Awan, you knew exactly what I'd do.
Yes. It's just sooner than I expected.
Will the Guardians fight?
We would never strike, but we will acknowledge the truth you've revealed.
He knows where this leads. It's inevitable.
All right, Nora. You're ready for the wisdom of the Nimika system.
The tablet.
Yes. The sacred guardians are waiting for you.
Then we'll meet soon.
Now I can get the last tablet and there is a surprise reveal.
Finally. My path of wisdom leads us to the tablet. The sacred guardians should grant us access now.
Should? Despite your public fight with the Cyrus Legion.
I sought the truth.
And inspired the Nimika people.
I'm only here for the tablet.
Who are you, Seeker?
I am the Seeker's voice, Guardian.
Guardian Awan. We recognize you as her voice.
This pilgrim learned the Void Song. As a Seeker, she uncovered the truth and protected its wisdom. Her honesty, bravery, and humility are proven beyond this reality. Now, the path of wisdom leads her to the tablet.
What is the Seeker's name?
It is Nara, who entered the rift at my side, who returned unscathed, and who I trust with my life.
Is this the entire truth?
Yes, she is exalted.
We recognize you as Nara, as one of us, protected by us and protecting us forever. You shall enter the sacred shrine and learn from the tablet.
In chorus, Guardian.
In chorus.
The tablet's wisdom.
I can feel its power too.
The Faceless rejected him? He doesn't fit. There's no hatred in him. He was a danger.
Facing all that we suppress. Accepting our true self. Without this seed of corruption, the Faceless cannot manipulate us.
Even the Prophet did not attain this state.
But I will. I must.
Your uprising has begun.
Awan, status.
Parts of Cyrus's own legion have mutinied, and many followed, but he's crushing them. All.
The people of Nimika are suffering. Again.
But it is no threat to the tablet shrine. As guardians, we must stay out of this.
I cannot.
I cannot watch them burn for the truth I revealed.
I must help people that rebel against Cyrus, even if I have to break my duty as a guardian. Destroying the first wave, I entered a Spirit class ship to face the next enemies. I fend off the attack, but I need to head back to defend the tablet. Cyrus wants its power. A demon class ship shows up with him inside. I can't directly blow it up, I saw the others. The explosion from the crystals inside might destroy the tablet, so I have to take down the shields, enter and kill Cyrus. Seeing a way in, I join Forza back and venture into the ship. However, he escapes and tries for himself to damage the ship, causing it to explode. But I managed to stop Cyrus.
Only the void. The Faceless feeding on your corrupted essence. Eternally. The demon crew is standing down.
Then we can leave. I'm sorry that it came to this.
Yes. But you cannot be one of us after this. Your path is different. You're much more than a seeker of wisdom. You exemplify wisdom. The people see in you what is lost in the Prophet.
They don't know me.
They know you as someone who did not try to murder thousands to cleanse the circle. You removed the corruption seed, and now the circle can heal again.
I cannot lead them.
Agreed. Your path is different. Go, Nora. Hunt him.
I will. In chorus, brother.
In chorus, sister.
At last, I've learned all the wisdom from the tablets.
Then you're ready to complete the Prophet's ritual yourself.
And find him. Let's return to the Chinook fields.
Now heading back to the Chinook fields and the Heart to perform the ritual. The Circle left the Faceless to protect the temple. They must be distracted by something else. I need to inscribe each one and show what I've learned from the tablets, and shoot some enemies of course. Touching all 3 of them opens the portal to the Faceless dimension.
A path into the void.
Guilt manifestation.
Go! Now! So loud.
Nara, don't push back. Find harmony.
And flow with the song. Formless and untouched.
Now I am a pure force.
Yes, yes. Their song shall flow through me, reaching out. I can use it. Yes, I can shape it into my prime right. I shall control everything.
The Prophet gained a new right here.
Surpassing the potential of any other elder.
My dear Nara, look at her. How pure and powerful she is. Isn't she perfect?
No.
Yes, yes, of course she is. There's nothing suppressed. All her potential, her true strength has surfaced. You want to stop her, don't you? Feel it move inside you. The rage. No, don't shy away. Let it breathe. There, you can feel it. Isn't it glorious?
Be true to yourself. Be true.
Yes, Naren, yes. Use your hate, your rage. Shatter her. Destroy her.
No.
She is me. She is a part of myself. Hate will not get me anywhere. I'm done listening to you. I'm a force in the shadows.
One final rite. Nara gets it after accepting herself, her final trial. The rite of control comes so late in the game, making it useless. After this tutorial I never used it. Narratively it makes sense. Nara had all previous rites before giving them up, but now she makes a step further than before and she is rewarded. And now she has a chance against the Prophet, but in the gameplay it doesn't make much sense. In the chaos that ensues in the final hour to grab and throw enemy or enemies, I don't see it happening. After each trial with the rite, there is a memory left from the Prophet, which shows what happened to him.
This light, pure pain. No, it's God. Necessary, I must welcome it. Cleansing, casting out my shadow.
Our shadows are a part of us. Casting them out would shatter our souls.
This is all wrong. It's only an illusion of peace. It's absolute corruption. I must...
He realized his failure, and it tore him apart. The man he was, the mentor I revered, shattered.
At last, eternal perfection, all-encompassing. I'm everywhere, inside everyone. Chorus has come. We have come.
No, not chorus, but faceless. You became faceless.
Nara.
We must go. This is no place for us.
A guilt manifestation. So pure.
Out! Now!
This guilt is infinite, manifesting all of humankind's sins.
Not only humankind's.
His presence. It's overwhelming, growing, ripping at our reality. An infinite craving to consume it entirely. And manifest their realm very soon.
How do you feel, Nara? Nara?
I can see Forza. Like I've never seen before. I hear the song from the void. All the time. It has nothing to do with the faceless. It's the music of creation. So beautiful.
What else do you see or hear? Do you hear the Prophet? Can you see where he is?
I can see what is left of him. He lost his soul, Forza. There is only an empty shell filled with faceless energies.
He drifted away, Forcer, into the void. Like what happened to you.
Eternal damnation. A fate worse than death. He deserved that. It's sad, but he did, Nara.
For a moment, I felt his suffering, his inner pain, when he realized what he had done.
You are not him. You did well. You went where he was not able to go, and you can fix what he did.
He's inside the Nimika Rift, trying to open it completely, so the Faceless can fully manifest.
It will end where it all started.
We must destroy him, or it will devour us all.
We will need a fleet for that.
I know, Forcer. I think we have one, but the fleet doesn't know it. Not yet.
This is it, the final battle. We must gather all our allies, the ones we made during this journey, and end the Prophet, or the Faceless will manifest and destroy everything as we know it.
It's been a long journey.
You are becoming the one. Humanity will follow if you lead them.
Into battle. And death.
This time, they will choose you.
Then, let's call them.
If there is anything else, better do it now. Are you ready?
Yes, it's time. Signal our forces, and I will speak to the galaxy.
There's nothing left but to fight.
Chorus. You have all heard about Chorus. The highest state of harmony a being can achieve. But when we look around, is there harmony around us? I see only never-ending conflict and oppressive doctrine bending us to the Prophet's will. You may ask, why? Because it was a lie. Harmony can't be ordered, can't be dictated. Harmony can only be achieved, and it takes hard work to reach it. That is true balance, and only that is Chorus. In front of me is the rift above Nimika Prime, and it's growing. Inside is the root of this false doctrine. The great prophet, enslaved by his own ambitions. I plan to stop him, and I need your help. Join me, no matter who you are. Side by side, we can do it. One day, when we make peace with all of this, with ourselves, with the Faceless, we will meet in the only thing that matters. In Chorus.
What is your plan if nobody else comes?
Then, we alone will restore the balance of the universe.
Silverhaven stands ready, sister in Chorus.
The Enclave is at your side now.
Najara security, ready
The
for
Sacred
war.
Guardians follow your
The
wisdom,
Resistance,
Seeker.
ready
By
to
your
stop
side,
the
Elder
war.
Strike Wing ready, exalted one.
It's a good plan.
The first order of business is to activate the jump gate so we can get to the rift side. It's shielded and there are 3 generator banks to be destroyed. The resistance from the circle is fierce. They throw everything at us. I destroy all of them and now Ariana, the engineer, will get the gate running again. In the meantime, I help Cardo because no one in this universe can defend themselves. Also, Ariana gets attacked, so I immediately jump to her aid. She does her magic eventually and all threats are eliminated. We can finally use the gate.
The rift
is reawakening.
I can feel his darkness in their song, pushing it, breaking into our reality.
To make it theirs.
The shrine ahead is our gateway to him.
To his end.
Yes. To all ships, let them hear too. The cult has always scorned us as divided and in discord, but no more. Here, we stand side by side, united in a harmony that we chose. Let them taste our freedom, our conviction, and the fire of our armada. Today, we fight as one. Everyone, break through their lines. Rear ahead.
Yes.
In chorus.
Taking heavy fire. Awan, now. Block their line of fire.
Affirmative. Moving into position. We will shield you and burn them.
Awan, open fire, now! Resolve, conquer the shades.
Now this is an epic moment. A massive battle I was waiting for throughout the whole game, punctuated by the appearance of a demon-class ship, the biggest one. First I need to destroy its systems, meaning shooting some power cells. There are so many, so I would recommend using the right of the senses to locate them. It highlights them very well. Going around and in the ship while being shot from every single direction is exhilarating. All energy systems and thrusters are down, but the core barrier is still up. I need some help from the engineers to take down the shield, but before they have a chance to do anything, a rupture in our reality shows up and faceless start to manifest from there. Rhi is in danger, so I flee to her rescue. We do what we can, but they continue to go through the rupture, so Ariana has a solution, an EMP blast, but at the cost of her life. This moment would hit harder if I spent more time with her, but besides the mission I recruited her and another side quest involving her brother, I don't know her much to care. There is no time to mourn, we must continue the assault. Awan is attacked by psychic totems and I must save him because they are making him attack his own people. Dealing with this situation, Nara commands everyone to attack the demon ship. It's the thing that stands between us and access to the prophet. However, the demon focuses all its energy in shooting the resistance and this leads to its core being exposed. I wish the gateway from the explosion wasn't a cutscene. This could have been an exciting moment just hearing the explosion behind you, rushing to escape imminent danger, but it's disappointingly not that. The gate opens, giving us access to the Faceless Dimension and the Prophet. We are on our own. The galaxy depends on us. The final showdown.
Our passage through the rift's raging maelstrom.
From now on,
it's only us.
Your might shall anchor in our mortal shells.
Feed on our guilt and wash away our discord.
Break through what keeps us apart.
Our
realms.
In chorus.
Forza?
Yes.
We can do this.
Believe it.
He is close now. I hope our allies, our friends, can hold out so we can finish this.
They will. They believe in you. As do I.
Forza. Thank you.
Naran, the fallen one, inside her worthless ship. Here to witness the end of all discord. Your end and our beginning.
Our final hunt
shall begin.
After him. Now!
He has a couple of phases. The first is going through this tunnel after him, taking his shield down and doing as much damage as possible while he taunts us, spawning these pillars, trying to stop me, plus lightning beams. The second phase is him turning into a snake or a dragon by fusing with the faceless. I think snake is more appropriate. But his corruption hurts Forza, so we must defeat him as quickly as possible. We must destroy his blisters while avoiding the swarms he summons, a barrage of lasers and energy pillars. He even throws asteroids at you, spawning them through a portal. Once you destroy the blisters, he sees vulnerable, moaning in agony, and you must peer through him. You repeat this a couple of times and he's done. Almost. However, each phase ups the difficulty. This is a much better fight than the first one. There is no bullshit instant deaths, and at the end it becomes pure chaos, but in a good way. Most of the attacks you've seen them by this point, but the Prophet feels like more polished version of the first boss battle. After I've done enough damage, disaster struck and it's time for a twist.
I must spear through! Cut him loose! One more time, Forza! One more time! Forza! What's happening, Forza?
My past has caught up with me. I believed I could dominate him, but my corruption is darker and deeper than I thought.
What are you talking about?
You think you're untouchable, exalted, such arrogance. Yes, you accepted your darkness. Yes, you accepted your failures. But one flaw remains, Naran. You never accepted your fears.
Forza! Stay with me! Forza!
You fear loneliness because your only friend is dying. You fear rejection because of what you have done. You fear damnation because there is no redemption for you.
Forza! Forza, wake up! Please!
No, it can't hear you. Worthless, empty shells never can.
Nara, hang in there. We're coming in strong, Cult Slayer.
We've got your back, Nara.
Such fragile little friends.
You're in there, Forza. I can feel you. You're my friend. Not an empty shell.
You can refuse, Elder. Those deeds, thoughts, emotions, they can never be undone.
You are a consciousness lured from the void. He lost his soul, Forza. There is only an empty shell filled with faceless energies. He drifted away, Forza, into the void.
Eternal damnation, a fate worse than death. My past has caught up with me. I believed I could dominate him, but my corruption is darker and deeper than I thought.
You were with me all the time. You never abandoned me. Even when I thought you did. I forgive you, my friend. I forgive you, my mentor.
Come back to me. You can reject your past self. Come back to me, Forza.
I can't, Nara. My connection to him is too strong. I can stay with you only if we become one.
Then do it, Forza, and I'll hold you with my inner strength. We will become one.
Awake. We are.
The twist is actually foreshadowed after performing the ritual and entering the Faceless dimension. Throughout the game, corruption, the circle, the Faceless, the rifts, everything bad in this world is in red and everything good is blue. Just before we get right of the control, a vision of the prophet shows up all in red, trying to corrupt us, but then Forza with the body of the prophet in blue says to Nara, "Be true to yourself," helping her overcoming the trial. He didn't just speak, he manifested, foreshadowing the events we had just been through. I didn't catch this on my first playthrough, only on my second time around. It can be easily missed, albeit it's right in front of your eyes, or maybe that's just me. This section is an absolute power trip, nothing can stop us. We plowed through all the enemies, focusing at the end on the prophet.
Ours, with their force. Like a star, we burn through darkness.
More circle shift incoming. Fire at will.
Our realities shall become one, merged in perfect harmony.
He's opening the rift.
We will stop him. The darkness. We are one. In chorus. This ends with us.
All that survived, that our friends and followers endured, and the myriad of human pathways, all led to this time, this singular place, where Naran serves as both the herald for a new chorus and the ideal for which everyone strives. Do I have regrets? How could I? Would she ever have ascended unless I failed and paved the way? Ever wielded her powers until I trained her? Ever made the right decisions without our struggles? Naran is not the symbol of my failure. She is the beacon of true harmony. Something that every human can achieve by accepting themselves as they truly are, no matter what darkness they have inside. True chorus.
We may not be with you right now, but we will be listening. Always.
The game is quite a journey. In terms of story, it's something you've probably seen 1,000 times, but I find it engaging, engrossed in Nara's journey. We take control of her while she is at her lowest, after committing unspeakable horror, hiding for 7 years and abandoning her only friend. She has a reason, but it doesn't make it easier for Forza. But in that time, she managed to make friends, people that she cares about, maybe without even realizing it. From the initial conversations, you understand Nara is close to the people around her, but not too close. She keeps a certain distance, and Stega Central became her new home, but when the circle attacks her friends, she rises to defend them. Realizing she can't hide anymore, Nara has to face her deeds, accept who she is and her flaws to save the galaxy. And throughout her journey, she understands the real meaning of Chorus, and it's not the prophet lies she was sold on initially, and she achieves her personal union, becoming the one at the very end by holding Forza with her inner strength. We also learned that the Great Prophet twisted its meaning to suit his beliefs, and that's what eventually got him destroyed, trying to control the uncontrollable. The world building is smartly integrated not only through the main storyline, but also with the side quests, so you are getting more than the usual rewards like credits or mods. At the end it gets a bit confusing or maybe slightly underdeveloped, but for the most part it's an enjoyable story. It's not anything groundbreaking, but it doesn't have to be. I was invested in Nara's journey. In the gameplay is where the game shines the most. Drifting is an absolute delight to use, and it's one of the differences between Chorus and the other space shooters. But here is where it falls a bit short. Mouse and keyboard controls require tinkering to feel good. To be fair, I got used to it by the end. I haven't tried how the game plays with a controller, but I imagine it will be at least as good as mouse and keyboard. I don't get the loot system. It's good that you get a new gear on a regular basis, but I find most of it pointless. With only 3 slots available and the Rites taking center stage, I don't see much use of all of the stuff I can buy or receive. You could argue that equipping sets provides incentive, but as much as I like the bonuses, not having a big energy bar in the latter half of the game will make it a slog. And even the story focuses on the Rites. They're essential and incredibly fun to use, and in the chaos of battle, they are the difference between life and death. I think 2 more slots and a bit more variety in the weapons will help in this regard. On a more positive note, everything in the gameplay incentivizes switching weapons and using different Rites. The combination of the bonuses you get after leveling up any of them works wonderfully and makes you feel that you're really making a progress in becoming more powerful. Another big positive is the ship design. Each faction has a distinct look. The standouts are Forsaken, which looks like nothing else in this world, and the Faceless. Their design is the most striking, looking otherworldly living beings controlled by a hive mind. The developer put a lot of effort in making them stand out from each other. And all this is achieved in a big part by the outstanding audio design. The voice acting is top notch. The British actor Malcolm Sinclair plays the Great Prophet. He's mostly known for roles in TV and stage productions, but he also has some notable appearances in movies. He is the target assassinated in his office by James Bond in Casino Royale in the pre-titled scene. He was also in V for Vendetta. Initially, I thought this was his first voice acting role in video games, but it turns out that he also did some work in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic MMO. Most recent appearance is again in Star Wars related role. He has a small part in Andor as Colonel Wolf Yularen. He's quite experienced actor and he manages to make the Prophet sound intimidating and charismatic. Forsaken is played by another British actor, known mostly for roles in TV shows, Adam James. He has a few roles in movies under his belt like Hunter Killer with Gerald Butler and Gary Oldman and Johnny English Strikes Again. He also did some voice acting for DICE's Star Wars Battlefront 2. Second actor that's involved with the Faraway Galaxy. I'm starting to see a pattern here. 2 people technically play Nara. What I mean is, the voice is provided by Casey Bradley, a British actress that's quite experienced in doing voice work in video games. Bravely Default 2, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Valkyrie Elysium among others. However, the look is taken from another actress, Jess Chan Liao. I apologize for my pronunciation. She has a very few credits to her name. However, being short-haired gives very distinct and memorable look to Nara. Casey Bradley and Adam James are doing the heavy lifting and they do an excellent job. The side characters are also good, but you hear them less. Voice acting is not the only good part of the sound department. The gameplay is backed up by wonderful sounding weapons. This is most noticeable with the Gatling gun. The different speed of shooting demonstrate different sounds. The Gatling gun with the slow firing rate feels like a mini cannon. It shoots in bursts and when the shots land, they quickly take down an enemy. On the opposite side, the Gatling gun with the best firing rate sounds like it could shred through everything on its way. The explosions are crunchy, meaty, with enough oomph. But the cherry on top is the soundtrack. It's composed by Pedro Camacho, a Portuguese classically trained composer. Over the years he built quite the portfolio, including working on World of Warcraft, Shadowland, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus and Star Citizen, among other titles that you've probably never heard of. His work on Chorus brings him an award for Best Video Game Score at the 2022 Hollywood Music in Media Awards. What makes it special for me that it's relatively tame. It's not overly bombastic. It's a mix of orchestral music with a lot of drums, percussions, hitting all the right notes. When you enter for the first time Stega Central, the music is calm, hopeful, slower version of the main theme. You are slowly going in the direction of the light. You feel at home. But when the action picks up, it doesn't overwhelm you, but it amplifies the tension with a faster moving track rather than being loud. There is a reason why it won the award, beating God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, among others. Chorus is one of those games that I knew right from booting it up that I'll have an amazing time. I was hit by the main theme and my jaw dropped. I instantly fell in love with it. It's a mix of very weird sounding bass, synths, orchestra, percussions and the amazing voice of Uyanga Bolt. I just played for a bit and stopped to find the whole track on YouTube. Such an amazing first impression. The second one was in no way different. As soon as I was in control, I immediately noticed how gorgeous the game looks. And it has a photo mode. I would have been disappointed if the game was lacking one. Here are some pictures I made. But the gameplay is where it shines and stands out. The movement, the weapons, the rides, all just clicks. There can be some improvements in all of them, but I can't deny how satisfying it is to use them. They all sound and feel awesome. And I love the simple and elegant system the developer used instead of skill trees. By using all the tools available to you, slowly you're getting better and at the end reaping the benefits of your efforts. And it feels so natural. Nothing is forced. However, all my problems with the game are the difference between being good and being great. The saddest part of the whole story is that the game sold poorly and honestly it never came up in discussions anywhere. It feels like I'm the only one who knows of its existence. Makes me wonder if there was any budget for marketing. I know the gaming landscape is vast, but Chorus came out of nowhere and won me over. Space shooters are few and far between, so we have to cherish what we got. By the time I started making this video, Everspace 2 came out and it seems to be a great game. Space shooters are not dime a dozen. Rebel Galaxy, Star Wars Squadrons and House of the Dying Sun are the few that come to mind released in the past decade. We should cherish when games like this come out. And Chorus has a good gameplay, good story, good controls, run on ancient hardware maxed out. What more can you ask? I can wholeheartedly recommend it.